Chapter 66. Zhou glanced at the blood-colored avatar stats and saw that the heart meditation in the primordial energy skill had vanished. Replacing it was blood meditation. Zhou attempted to activate blood meditation as a cool aura surged out of his heart. The aura flowed through his blood to every corner of his body, making him feel indescribably refreshed and comfortable. As for Zhou's skin, it suffused a strange flush that made him look a little odd. It felt somewhat different from heart meditation. Furthermore, the primordial energy expenditure seemed to be much slower. 1 point of primordial energy could last nearly 3 minutes. With Zhou's upper limit of 10 primordial energy, he could use blood meditation for about half an hour. If blood meditation is like heart meditation and can restrain small Buddha temple's mysterious powers, it'll be enough for me to run a few rounds on the stone steps in front of small Buddha temple. Zhou didn't waste any more time as he got the blood-colored avatar to ride the silver-winged flying ant and fly towards small Buddha temple. Indeed, as Zhou had imagined, blood meditation and heart meditation had the same ability. After the blood-colored avatar activated heart meditation, it ran up the stone steps until it reached small Buddha temple's entrance without any accidents. Small Buddha temple was in a dilapidated state. The plaque on the door had already faded and many parts of the temple's walls had collapsed. Pushing open the dust-covered door, Zhou saw the scene inside and was slightly taken aback. He was already prepared to fight powerful dimensional creatures, but there were no dimensional creatures in the yard. There was only a stone monument erected in the middle of the yard. Small perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Zhou couldn't help but feel puzzled when he saw the biggest words on the stone monument. The Great Perfection of Wisdom Sutra was a well-known name. In the past, it was the theoretical foundation of Mahayana Buddhism. After the dimensional storms, a Buddhist believer had figured out a primordial energy art from it. Together with the Agama Sutra, it was one of the 2 major Buddhist primordial energy arts. They were both epic primordial energy arts that were in no way inferior to the Li family's invincible Khanate divine art. However, Zhou had never heard of the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. The name sounded like a joke no matter how he looked at it. He got the blood-colored avatar to walk closer and carefully read the content. After reading it for a while, he immediately felt his head swell as though it was about to explode. This sutra is odd. Zhou was alarmed. Just as he was about to move his gaze away from the scripture, he suddenly felt the flow of primordial energy in his body slow down. Ever since Zhou cultivated the Lost Immortal Sutra, it had been automatically circulating without him needing to deliberately cultivate it. Now, the Lost Immortal Sutra's rotation had suddenly slowed down. This was something that had never happened before. But after the Lost Immortal Sutra's flow slowed down, Zhou felt the splitting headache ease. When Zhou read the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra again, he didn't feel as uncomfortable as before. Zhou was surprised as he continued reading the scriptures. He realized that the more scriptures he read, the slower the flow of Lost Immortal Sutra became. There were just too many words on the monument. After reading for a while, Zhou was about to continue reading when he suddenly saw the screen turn black. The blood-colored avatar had died. Only then did Zhou recall that he had blood meditation activated all this time. After reading the scriptures for so long, blood meditation had drained his primordial energy and stopped circulating. From the looks of it, small Buddha temple is the same as the stone steps. There's an evil force enveloping it. Without blood meditation to protect me, death awaits me. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have read the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, Zhou thought to himself. After dripping his blood to transform and re-entering the underground Buddha city dungeon, Zhou first went to the lotus pond. He planned on grinding the mutated Buddha heart lotus again. It would naturally be best if a companion egg dropped. Even if it didn't, a primordial energy crystal would be enough to replenish his primordial energy. However, after spending so much effort, he finally killed the mutated Buddha heart lotus again, only to find a strength 14 crystal. The blood-colored avatar picked up the strength crystal and absorbed it, but its strength stat didn't increase. It remained at 10. From the looks of it, even if I cultivate the Lost Immortal Sutra, there's still a bottleneck. I can't exceed the limit of 10 points at the mortal stage. Zhou was somewhat disappointed. After killing all the Buddha heart lotuses and replenishing his primordial energy with great difficulty, Zhou headed for small Buddha temple once again. This time, Zhou didn't waste any time at the stone monument. After entering the temple, he ran straight for the temple hall that faced the main door. The temple hall was already in a dilapidated state. The roof had collapsed and the door was slanted, as though it would collapse at any moment. There wasn't a plaque on the door, so it was unknown what the temple's name was. The blood-colored avatar pushed forward, causing the door to creak as it fell into the temple hall. With a loud bang, it stirred up a cloud of dust. As he looked at the dust-filled temple, the first thing he saw was a Buddhist statue. Although it was a cartoonish Buddhist statue in-game, it still gave Zhou a fright. The Buddha statues Zhou had seen were typically benevolent and had a dignified and elegant posture. Only a few guardian Vajras would have angry looks. However, deities like the guardian Vajras wouldn't be placed in the main hall. As for the Buddha statue in the main hall, it had a face that resembled the devil's. Although it didn't have an angry expression, it left one shuddering as though it was staring coldly at them. Bam! Zhou only managed to take a glance before the blood-colored avatar exploded the moment it stepped into the temple hall, turning into a pool of blood. The game screen also turned black. Zhou broke out into a cold sweat. Small Buddha temple sure is creepy. I can die just by taking a look. Thankfully, I didn't go there with my real body. Otherwise, no matter how many lives I have, it wouldn't be enough. I wonder how those human seniors explored dimensional zones in the past. To have their present accomplishments, I'm afraid countless lives have been sacrificed. Although Zhou had read stories of soldiers sacrificing themselves while exploring dimensional zones back when he was in school, it wasn't as shocking as experiencing it for himself. Zhou thought again. After entering the temple, even blood meditation is useless. However, there's a stone monument with a small perfection of Wisdom Sutra in the temple. It might be of some use, but it's clearly a primordial energy art. I've already cultivated the Lost Immortal Sutra, so it's impossible for me to change to another primordial energy art. Furthermore, small Buddha temple is so strange. Who knows if there's a problem with the primordial energy art? After some hesitation, Zhou decided to enter small Buddha temple and memorize the scriptures inside. As for functions like taking pictures, he didn't even need to think about it. Ordinary phones couldn't capture the scenes on the mysterious phone, so all Zhou could do was memorize them himself. The scriptures were too long, but thankfully, they weren't like the Lost Immortal Sutra, which he couldn't memorize. Zhou only memorized a few paragraphs at a time. He would leave small Buddha temple when it was about time and recover his primordial energy. By the time Zhou finished memorizing the scriptures, he realized that it was already daybreak. He hadn't slept the entire night. Chapter 67. However, the circulation path this time wasn't the Lost Immortal Sutra's path. Instead, it was a brand new path, as though it was a completely different primordial energy art. Lesser Prajna Parmitha Sutra. Zhou immediately recalled that the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra he had memorized was likely to circulate in such a manner. As the primordial energy circulated, Zhou felt as though his cells had come to life. His entire body felt hot and itchy, as though countless worms were crawling under his skin. Zhou resisted the urge to reach out and grab it. In fact, he really didn't dare move. When the Lost Immortal Sutra circulated in his body, he could move however he wanted, but the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra was different. The rapid flow of primordial energy made Zhou afraid to move, afraid that his primordial energy would go astray. After sitting on the sofa for quite some time, Zhou felt his body tremble as though some shackles had been severed. His body felt indescribably relaxed as the hot and itchy feeling vanished. Zhou could sense that he had gained a basic mastery of the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. He opened his eyes and wanted to look at his phone, but when he saw his hands holding it, he jumped in fright. His palms were covered in skin flakes. Zhou reached out and tore off a huge piece of skin flakes. Not only did his palms not feel any pain, but they also felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Soon, Zhou realized that it wasn't just his hands. His entire body had shed a layer of skin. Large pieces of dead skin could be easily torn off. Zhou had no choice but to enter the bathroom. After soaking in the hot water, the layer of dead skin on his body peeled off, revealing the delicate new skin inside. It had a faint jade-like luster. Zhou came out of the shower and looked at himself in the mirror. He was basically no different from before, except that he looked more energetic and clean. After returning to the living room, Zhou logged back into the game. He couldn't help but be alarmed when he saw the blood-colored avatar's stats. After mastering the Lost Immortal Sutra, all 4 of his stats were at 10. It was useless no matter how much he absorbed dimensional crystals. They wouldn't grow any further. But now, his physique had become 11 points. Zhou subconsciously looked at his other stats, but there were no changes. Even in the primordial energy art column, there was still only the Lost Immortal Sutra. There was no small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. What's going on? Why isn't it displayed in the game, even though I've clearly mastered the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Could it be that the phone game can't recognize such primordial energy arts? Zhou found it odd as he attempted to circulate the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra and realized that it was very smooth. Clearly, he had gained a basic mastery of it. Zhou attempted to circulate the Lost Immortal Sutra again, and his primordial energy immediately resumed the circulation method of the Lost Immortal Sutra. It automatically circulated in his body, appearing identical to before without any changes. Strange, what's going on? Zhou made a few attempts and realized that he could freely switch between the Lost Immortal Sutra and small perfection of Wisdom Sutra without any obstruction. Zhou rarely heard of people cultivating 2 primordial energy arts at the same time. One could learn many primordial energy skills, but the implications of primordial energy arts were too great. Typically, the higher the level of primordial energy arts, the greater the conflict. It was very difficult to cultivate 2 primordial energy arts at the same time, especially epic primordial energy arts. If one cultivated 2 at the same time, they might even suffer a chi deviation and die. He had never seen someone who could freely switch between 2 primordial energy arts like Zhou. Zhou was just about to try using the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra to enter the temple hall when he heard his phone ring. Zhou, it's almost time. Let's gather at the Lotus Pond. Hui Haifeng's voice sounded from the phone. Got it. Zhou looked at the time and realized that it was almost 9. He hadn't slept the entire night, but he didn't feel tired. After packing his things, Zhou rushed to underground Buddha City. Zhou, you made us wait so long, Gao Yang said unhappily. I don't think I'm late, right? Zhou looked at the time. There is still more than 10 minutes to the agreed time. Let's not talk about that. This is the information on our companion beasts. Take a look. Hui Haifeng handed a tablet to Zhou. There were detailed records of the 4 companion beasts, including Hui Haifeng. There were also videos of the companion beasts releasing their skills, allowing Zhou to easily understand their abilities. After carefully reading all the information, Zhou looked up at Hui Haifeng and asked, Are you planning on using these 4 legendary companion beasts to slay the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus, without fighting? After all, we only have 1 life. It's best not to take risks if possible. Hui Haifeng looked at Zhou and asked, If 4 companion beasts aren't enough, I can think of something else. As long as your control isn't too bad, these 4 companion beasts should be enough. However, there's something I need to say first. You have to obey my commands absolutely. If any problems occur because of a disobedience, I won't take any responsibility. The companion eggs won't be returned either, Zhou said. No problem. We'll follow your arrangements. Hui Haifeng was rather easygoing. All right, I'll explain the detailed plan first. However, a plan is just a plan. When a real battle begins, follow my orders. Zhou explained his plan. Hui Haifeng and company expressed no objections after hearing that. One of the girls, named Nana, looked at Zhou with interest and asked, "If we fight according to your instructions and end up failing to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, or if we are injured, what will you say?" "I'll compensate you for your losses," Zhou said casually. "All right." Nana was very satisfied with Zhou's answer. "If there are no other questions, let's begin," Zhou said as he pointed at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Hui Haifeng and company summoned their legendary companion beasts. 3 of them were birds, while Nana's was a vine. According to the information, it was a legendary water radish vine that could resist the corrosive nature of the lotus pond's water. Furthermore, it could move in water, making it an excellent plant-type companion beast for water battles. Under Zhou's command, the 4 companion beasts charged into the lotus pond. Many students were watching the battle. Although Zhou's battle with Li Xian had been exciting, he had failed to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. With Hui Haifeng's participation, many students believed that it was very possible for them to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Not far from the lotus pond, 2 teachers from the school were also looking in its direction. "Teacher Wang, do you think Hui Haifeng and company will succeed?" Lu Jingyan asked casually as he watched the 4 companion beasts charge into the lotus pond. Chapter 68. "I don't think so," Lu Jingyan said with a smile. "Why?" Wang Fei asked Lu Jingyan, perplexed. Anyone who had seen the video of Zhou and Li Xian battling the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus would know that Zhou and company had the strength to slay it. They were just short of the final strike. Now that they had 4 stronger people, it didn't make sense for them to fail. Take a look at this first. Lu Jingyan switched on his phone and clicked on a video. "This is the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus? I don't think it's this one, right?" Wang Fei glanced at the video and immediately saw a few soldiers controlling their companion beasts to fight the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Lu Jingyan said, "This is the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus that the army discovered elsewhere in underground Buddha City. They mobilized 5 legendary companion beasts, but they suffered heavy losses and were nearly wiped out." "There's actually such a thing?" Wang Fei was somewhat alarmed. Lu Jingyan pulled the video to the end and made Wang Fei watch it carefully. The final scene was the scene of 20 to 30 blood fountains spewing out from the lotus platform. The 5 legendary companion beasts were drenched in blood as their bodies rotted. They fell into the lotus pond with tragic cries, leaving nothing behind. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus actually has such an ability. "Should we stop Hui Haifeng and company?" Wang Fei said with a frown after watching the video. Lu Jingyan shook his head and said, "We can warn them now. In the future, when they enter unknown dimensional zones to explore, who can warn them? Cruel reality is the best teacher. Today, they only need to pay the price of a few companion beasts, but the experience they gain might save their lives in the future." Wang Fei nodded slightly. What Lu Jingyan said was right. In school, the dimensional zones they came into contact with were areas that the army had already explored. It wasn't dangerous enough, making some students belittle dimensional zones. It was good to let them suffer a little. "Teacher Lu, what do you think of Zhou's student?" Wang Fei's gaze landed on Zhou, who was commanding the battle. To be honest, although his and Li Xian's performance was spectacular, I think more highly of Li Xian in terms of potential. After all, to go further, just relying on talent and hard work isn't enough. Besides, I heard that Zhou is addicted to gaming. I'm afraid he won't amount to much. Lu Jingyan paused and looked at Wang Fei. "Zhou's class should be led by you, right? I'm afraid you'll have to work a little harder." Wang Fei nodded and looked meaningfully at the distant Zhou. She muttered to herself, "I don't think so. This Zhou might be a very interesting fellow." Under Zhou's command, the 4 companion beasts attacked the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Hui Haifeng and company were very cooperative, and their ability to control companion beasts was also very strong. Soon, they tore through the blood Buddha petals and slayed the toad. After the toad self-destructed, The four of them controlled their companion beast to charge at the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus, in a bid to slay it. Windshield bird, blood raven, retreat 10 meters. Water vines, retreat 15 meters. Raven Tengu, move 7 meters to the left. At the same time, shoot out feather attacks, Zhou instructed. With victory at hand and the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus on the brink of collapse, the boy controlling the blood raven said in excitement, "Let me complete the final strike." Blood raven, activate blood feather storm. Hui Haifeng and Nana controlled their companion beasts to retreat according to Zhou Wen's instructions. However, the boy didn't let the blood raven retreat. Instead, he delivered the final strike. This was because everything had gone too smoothly. It was so smooth that he believed that he didn't need Zhou Wen's help. He saw the blood feather strike the lotus platform, immediately riddling it with wounds as though it was about to crack. Just as the boy was feeling smug, he heard a boom. The lotus platform exploded as 20 to 30 blood fountains shot into the sky. Instantly, it turned into a rain of blood that blanketed the area. Hui Haifeng and company's companion beasts had already retreated according to Zhou Wen's instructions. They calmly reacted and retreated out of the range of the blood rain. As the blood raven hadn't retreated a step earlier, it was too close to the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. It couldn't escape in time and was drenched by the blood rain. Caw! The blood raven let out a tragic cry as most of its feathers rotted away. It fell straight into the lotus pond, making the other students draw a cold gasp. The boy's expression turned nasty. Zhou Wen didn't say a word as he continued commanding. Windshield bird, use your primordial energy skill to attack the flower stem. Raven Tengu, use your feather attacks to provide cover. Water vines, prepare to catch the lotus flower. Under Zhou Wen's command, the trio successfully slew the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus and dragged the damaged lotus flower out. Junior, not bad, Nana said with a smile. I'm not responsible for the blood raven's death. I won't compensate you, Zhou said. The boy controlling the blood raven blushed when he heard that. He said in embarrassment, "There's no need to compensate me. I'm sorry. I was too anxious." Zhou, you are indeed something. How did you know that the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus had such a self-harming move? When facing any dimensional creature, one has to be fearful. Otherwise, one might pay the price with their lives. I'm only doing my best to prevent any accidents from happening, Zhou casually gave a reason. Thank you for this. Otherwise, we would have suffered heavy losses, Hui Haifeng said with narrowed eyes. He didn't care about the losses, but Zhou Wen's performance piqued his interest. I'm paid to do things. It's only right. If there's nothing else, I'll be heading back. Zhou Wen turned and left after saying that. He was bent on entering small Buddha temple's main hall to investigate, so he wasn't in the mood to say anything else. Gao Yang watched Zhou Wen leave with a complicated expression. He had always felt that Hui Haifeng's hiring of Zhou Wen was unnecessary, but from the looks of it, without Zhou Wen, it was very likely that the four companion beasts would have died. The loss was greater than losing a companion egg. Lu Jingyan wore an odd expression as well. Strange. Could it be that he has connections in the military and has seen this video? Wang Fei said with a smile. Don't you know that Zhou Wen's stay in Four Seasons Garden was arranged by the Yin family? I see. No wonder. Only then did Lu Jingyan come to a realization. However, Wang Fei narrowed her eyes as she looked in the direction of Zhou Wen's departure. There was something she didn't say. Although Zhou Wen has a deep relationship with the Yin family, it's absolutely impossible for him to obtain information from them. How did this fellow do it to such an extent? What an interesting fellow. From the looks of it, there's a need to gain a deeper understanding of him. Just treat it as helping Xiaolan. Chapter 69. Zhou Wen was already extremely familiar with underground Buddha City. He rode the silver-winged flying ant to the lotus pond as fast as he could and killed another mutated Buddha Heart Lotus. Even if others could kill a mutated Buddha Heart Lotus, they would have to wait for a mutated Buddha Heart Lotus to come out of a dimensional rift. However, Zhou only needed to revive the blood-colored avatar to spawn a new mutated Buddha heart lotus, allowing him to slay it infinitely. Slaying a mutated Buddha heart lotus was extremely easy for the present Zhou. After a standard set of procedures, the mutated Buddha heart lotus was slain. Ding! Following a clear and melodious sound, something burst out of the lotus. A companion beast. Zhou was overjoyed. It was a pleasant surprise. However, Zhou's present primordial energy wasn't enough to incubate a legendary companion beast. At most, he could use the blood-colored avatar's death to incubate it in an incomplete manner like the silver-winged flying ant. That didn't seem meaningful. Zhou was already struggling to rear a silver-winged flying ant. If he were to rear another one, it would probably bankrupt him. When the blood-colored avatar picked up the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg, a fusion notification appeared in the system. Mutated Buddha heart lotus and silver-winged flying ant have a compatibility of 3%. Mutated Buddha heart lotus and mutated skeleton ant have a compatibility of 5%. Do you want to fuse? Fuse my ass. Zhou felt depressed. With a compatibility in the single digits, the chances of a successful fusion were about the same as winning the lottery. There was no need for him to take the gamble. If only I could get the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg out of the game. Zhou hadn't discovered this function despite studying it for a long time. However, on second thought, Zhou realized that even if he could get it out of the game, he couldn't sell it. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain where he had obtained the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg. Using the mysterious phone's function, Zhou checked the companion egg's information. Mutated Buddha heart lotus, legendary life providence. Turbid waters clear lotus strength, 15 speed, 13 constitution, 12 primordial energy, 18 talent skill. Blood pattern Buddha aspect. Zhou was somewhat disappointed when he saw it. To an ordinary legendary companion beast, the mutated Buddha heart lotus's stats were definitely not bad. But compared to the mutated Buddha heart lotus's strength, the stats of this mutated Buddha heart lotus were definitely not good. The mutated Buddha heart lotus should have 4 primordial energy skills, but this one only had 1. Clearly, this wasn't an attribute an excellent grade companion beast should have. Previously, Zhou was somewhat hesitant, but now there was nothing to hesitate about. He chose not to fuse it and fed the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg to the silver-winged flying ant as food. Zhou originally imagined that the silver-winged flying ant wouldn't need food after it evolved into an adult, but he soon realized that he was wrong. Not only did the silver-winged flying ant need food, but its need was even greater than before. After the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg was fed to the silver-winged flying ant, it didn't show any obvious changes. However, the slight hunger notification that appeared previously was gone. It won't be too late to hatch it after I get an excellent grade mutated Buddha heart lotus. Zhou's goal was naturally a mutated Buddha heart lotus companion beast with full stats. After all, he had plenty of time to grind the mutated Buddha heart lotus in the future. Obtaining an excellent grade 1 was just a matter of time and luck. After slaying all the Buddha heart lotuses in the lotus pond, he failed to obtain an ordinary Buddha heart lotus companion egg. Without stopping, Zhou rushed to Small Buddha Temple. After entering Small Buddha Temple, Zhou converted the Lost Immortal Sutra to the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra before controlling the blood-colored avatar to walk into the temple hall. The Buddha statue was still staring ferociously at the blood-colored avatar. However, this time, the blood-colored avatar didn't immediately die. I succeeded. The Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra is indeed related to this temple hall. Zhou was delighted as he controlled the blood-colored avatar to continue walking forward. Finally, he saw the scene inside the temple hall. There were many Buddhist murals in the temple hall, but they were different from the ones Zhou had seen in the past. The murals here were scenes from hell. There was a picture of a minotaur being thrown into a pot of boiling oil, a bird-headed monster with its tongue pulled out, and an imp being sawed in half. The entire temple hall was eerie and terrifying, as though it was a punishment hall in hell. And the Buddha statue was very different from the typical Buddha statue. Apart from its ferocious face, it had two other faces. One head had three faces. The front was the ferocious face Zhou one had seen previously, and there were two faces on each side. The left face was similar to a normal Buddha statue, with a benevolent look and a smile at the corner of its eyes. However, the right face was even stranger than the front. It was a crying face with bloody tears hanging from the corners of its eyes. There was a hint of desolation amidst the ferocious look. What kind of Buddha is this? Zhou was alarmed. With his shallow knowledge of Buddhism, he had never heard of a three-faced Buddha in Buddhism. There was no plaque outside the temple hall, and there was no plaque beside the Buddha statue that indicated the Buddha's name. Apart from this Buddha statue, there were no other Buddhist statues in the entire temple hall, nor were there any dimensional creatures. Just as Zhou was feeling puzzled, he saw the 6 eyes on the Buddha statue's 3 faces emit a golden glow. Then, the Buddha statue that looked like a stone statue gradually suffused a golden halo, as though it had been sculpted into a golden body. Zhou was alarmed as he controlled the blood-colored avatar to leave the temple. There was definitely something amiss. Although dying in-game wasn't a true death, Zhou didn't wish to waste a drop of blood. However, before Zhou could control the blood-colored avatar to leave the temple, the Buddha statue's 6 eyes shone on him like 6 torchlight beams. Then he saw the Buddha statue speak. However, his words didn't make a sound. Instead, they appeared on the screen in the form of text. Pious Bodhisattva, the spokesperson of Buddha that walks the world, you will obtain the gift of Buddha. You can choose one of these 3 Buddha-type creatures to be your guardian. As the text appeared, the Buddha statue slowly raised its arms. Between its palms, streams of light condensed and gradually turned into 3 companion eggs. The 3 companion eggs were resplendent with golden light, as though they emitted a strange Buddhist glow. There's such a good thing? They actually gave companion eggs directly? Is it the same in small Buddha temple in real life? Zhou was alarmed as he carefully sized up the 3 companion eggs. The 3 companion eggs were all resplendent with golden light, as though they were protected by a Buddhist glow. However, their sizes were somewhat different. Clearly, they weren't the same companion beast. Chapter 70. With the naked eye, the 3 companion eggs were golden in color, but the 3 golden colors were somewhat different. As they were in-game, Zhou couldn't tell how big the 3 companion eggs were. Using the blood-colored avatar as a comparison, the largest companion egg was half the height of a person. Not only did it have a golden Buddhistic glow swirling around it, but there was also a faint scarlet glow in the golden glow. Although he couldn't sense its temperature, it made him feel that the interior of the giant egg was extremely hot. The leftmost companion egg was the smallest. It was only the size of the blood-colored avatar's finger. It was also golden, but this companion egg was crystalline like a golden cat's eye. The companion egg in the middle was the size of a soccer ball. It looked like it was made of gold, and there were many uneven patterns on its outer shell. It looked like some Buddhist scriptures that Zhou couldn't understand. Which one should I choose? Zhou sized up the 3 companion eggs and was somewhat hesitant. Although Zhou could understand the blood-colored avatar's feelings, he couldn't tell which of the 3 companion eggs was good or bad. Bodhisattva, follow your heart and make a choice. There's no need to hesitate, the strange 3-faced Buddha said again. It was still in the form of a text column. Zhou thought for a moment, and indeed, there was nothing to hesitate about. He had never heard of such 3 companion eggs, so he had no way of making a judgment. He might as well choose one that he found pleasing to the eye and leave the rest to the heavens. With this in mind, Zhou didn't hesitate any longer. He controlled the blood-colored avatar to reach out and grab the smallest of the 3 companion eggs. The tiny, golden, crystal-like companion egg was held in the blood-colored avatar's palm. Immediately, the companion egg emitted a golden Buddhistic glow. Obtained mythical companion egg, Truth Listener. incubating automatically. F***. You tricked me. Zhou immediately let out a strange cry as he flung his hand in a bid to throw the mysterious phone away. A mythical companion egg was very powerful and impressive, but Zhou knew his limits. With his primordial energy, he could even suck a legendary companion egg dry, much less incubate a mythical companion egg. Unfortunately, Zhou's flinging of his hand was too slow. A terrifying force had already emitted from the phone, instantly sucking all the primordial energy in Zhou's body clean. 11 primordial energy was pitifully little. Zhou felt his body being emptied. That wasn't all. All the blood in his body seemed to be sucked away by a water pump as it gathered towards his 10 fingers. His fingertips immediately ruptured, and the blood from his 10 fingers sprayed onto the phone like 10 fountains of blood. In an instant, it was completely absorbed by the phone. It's over. Am I going to be the first university student to die playing games in the new era? This thought flashed through Zhou's mind, but in the next second, the phone's suction force disappeared. Zhou's fingers finally regained their freedom and stopped spewing blood. At the same time, a strange golden pattern appeared on his left ear. The golden pattern was like a symbol that was tattooed on the back of his left ear. It made him feel warm in his left ear. I actually incubated a mythical companion egg? Zhou couldn't believe the outcome. It was just too unexpected. A legendary silver-winged flying ant companion egg was enough to cause the blood-colored avatar to explode. The mythical companion egg didn't suck the blood-colored avatar dry. It only made Zhou lose all his primordial energy and a portion of his blood. This didn't match the identity of a mythical companion beast. After Zhou incubated Truth Listener, the other 2 companion eggs in the 3-faced Buddha's hand vanished. The resplendent Buddha statue gradually converged its light and returned to its original stone appearance. It no longer moved or spoke. Zhou hurriedly looked at Truth Listener's stats to confirm if it was really a mythical companion beast. Truth Listener, mortal, evolvable, strength, 11 speed, 11 constitution, 11 primordial energy, 11 talent skill. Truth Listener, indestructible golden body, evil warding, 9 extremes companion form. Earring Zhou's eyes nearly popped out. Truth Listener wasn't at the mythical stage, but at the mortal stage. However, Zhou had never heard of a mortal companion beast with all 11 stats. Furthermore, this fellow actually had 4 talent skills. This was likely the limit of a companion beast talent skills. The system notification said it was at the mythical stage, but why is it at the mortal stage after incubation? Could it be that this has something to do with its evolvable stats? But how can it evolve? Don't tell me it needs to eat companion eggs to evolve like the silver-winged flying ant? Zhou didn't dare stay in the temple hall any longer to prevent any accidents from happening. After leaving the temple hall, he circled Small Buddha Temple and realized that this place was indeed worthy of being called Small Buddha Temple. It was really small inside. Apart from the main hall, there were no other temples. However, it was also possible that the collapsed rocks had covered up the other parts of the temple. After all, Zhou circled Small Buddha Temple and didn't discover anything. When he entered the main hall again, the 3-faced Buddha didn't react. Zhou had no choice but to leave Small Buddha Temple and exit the game. Only then did he dare summon Truth Listener. Small Buddha Temple was just too strange. Even though he was in-game, Zhou didn't dare act recklessly there. The name Truth Listener wasn't unfamiliar to Zhou. It could even be said to be well-known. In Buddhist myths and legends, Truth Listener was the mount of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Legend had it that it was formed from a white dog. It had the ability to hear the matters of the world and was extremely loyal. In Journey to the West, the 6-eared macaque had disguised itself as Sun Wukong. The gods couldn't tell the difference, but Truth Listener could tell the difference. However, it didn't dare say it. Don't tell me this fellow is really the legendary Truth Listener? Zhou felt somewhat expectant. However, when Truth Listener was summoned, Zhou immediately felt depressed. It wasn't a white dog, but a golden monkey the size of a palm. Its golden fur resembled golden threads, and its eyes were like two golden gems. It looked extremely adorable, but it was just too small. This fellow is truth listener. Joan found it unbelievable. Its tiny body was the complete opposite of its terrifying attributes. No matter how one looked at it, they couldn't be connected. Joan tried Truth Listener's companion form again, and the golden monkey immediately transformed into a golden earring that landed on Joan's left ear. Joan felt his ear tremble as though the earplugs that blocked his ear had been pulled out. His left ear became several times sharper and clearer. He could now hear everything clearly when he couldn't hear it previously. Ugh! A woman's moan suddenly reached Joan's ears, leaving him feeling odd. He looked in the direction of the voice and realized that it came from next door. And the person living next door was the arrogant, cold, and mentally challenged Jing. Chapter 71. Joan frowned slightly as he hesitated if he should go next door to take a look. However, he felt that Jing was a baffling person. It was best not to have anything to do with her. Besides, this was a college that was equipped with an advanced hospital. If anything were to happen to Jing, a doctor would come to save her with a phone call. Just as Joan was about to take off the Truth Listener earring, he heard the sound of a heavy object falling from next door. The sound entered Joan's left ear, and immediately, a blurry scene of Jing falling from a high place appeared in his mind. The scene flashed before vanishing. There was no movement next door either. Could something really have happened to Jing? Although Joan didn't mind Jing, he didn't have a blood feud with her. On account of her mother, Ouyang Lan, he couldn't just watch her die. After some hesitation, Joan decided to head next door to take a look. After washing his face, he walked out of the building and jumped over the short wooden fence. Standing in front of Jing's building, he pressed the visual doorbell. Joan thought that if Jing could respond, it would likely mean that she was fine. He could then return to gaming. If there was no response, something had definitely happened. He couldn't just leave her in a lurch. At the very least, he needed to have some compassion. Even if he encountered a stranger, it was still necessary to call the ambulance. After pressing the doorbell, he didn't hear a response. The building was silent with no response at all. Joan used his earring-wearing left ear to listen, but he still didn't hear anything. There weren't even any footsteps. Could something really have happened? Joan frowned slightly. To confirm that something had really happened, he pressed the doorbell a few more times, but it remained silent inside. From the looks of it, something has really happened. Without any hesitation, Joan sized up the building. The door had a password lock, and it was made of special materials. It wasn't easy to smash the door open. If he couldn't enter, Joan planned on making a phone call to report to the school. Turning his gaze, he saw that the special tempered glass sliding door on the balcony on the second floor was closed and not locked. He leaped up and jumped onto the balcony on the second floor. He pulled open the glass door and entered the building. The layout of the buildings in Four Seasons Garden was the same. With great familiarity, Joan rushed straight for the bedroom. Thankfully, she had an accident in the bedroom. If something had happened in the cultivation room, I'm afraid I'll have to report it to the school. I wonder if the school's people will be able to save her in time. Joan twisted the door handle. The door wasn't locked from the inside as he pushed it open and walked in. He saw Jing lying by the side of the bed, her face frighteningly pale. Her eyes were closed as she gritted her teeth. Her forehead was covered in cold sweat, and her body appeared somewhat stiff. She looked like she was in a terrible situation. "What's wrong with you?" Joan walked forward and squatted in front of Jing, pinching her nose. At that moment, Jing felt like dying. Due to her physique, she had suffered from a strange illness since she was young. Every once in a while, it would act up. When it acted up, her entire body would be in excruciating pain. In severe cases, her entire body would even stiffen, rendering her unable to move. Thankfully, this strange illness was just like her period. It came on time every time, so Jing roughly knew when it would act up. During that period of time, she would spend it in her bedroom and silently endure it. Today, she planned on lying in bed as usual and silently endure it. However, Due to the severity of the episode, she couldn't bear the pain and let out a soft moan. Zhou, who was wearing the truth listener earring, heard the sound. As it was too painful, and Jing fell off the bed while tossing and turning. Her body was stiff, but she was still conscious. She had heard Zhou when pressing the doorbell. She originally imagined that he would leave if no one answered, but to her surprise, Zhou had barged in from the balcony, and Jing regretted not locking the glass door. In fact, she couldn't be blamed. This was Sunset College after all. Only the students of the college could come here. Furthermore, there were surveillance cameras everywhere. No one knew that there was something wrong with her, so how would they dare climb the wall to enter her room? As Zhou walked to the bedroom, and Jing endured the pain while praying that Zhou wouldn't push the door open. This was because she was only wearing pajamas. This was because she would sweat profusely every time it acted up. She needed to change her clothes after the incident, which was very troublesome. Therefore, she had changed into pajamas. Furthermore, Jing's current posture of falling to the ground was inelegant. As someone who had been educated in etiquette from a young age, she couldn't accept being seen in her current state, much less Zhou, who she viewed as an imaginary enemy. Zhou clearly didn't think too much about it. He only treated Jing as a patient. As he pinched her nose, he asked, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And Jing opened her eyes and glared at Zhou. Unfortunately, that was all she could do. At that moment, her pain had reached its peak. Her body was stiff and trembling. Even her teeth were chattering, so she didn't have the ability to speak. "Don't worry, I'll call a doctor for you." Zhou felt relieved when he saw Jing open her eyes. Since she wasn't dead, there was likely a chance of treatment. Without any hesitation, Zhou took out his ordinary phone and was about to call the school's emergency number to get the affiliated hospital to send a doctor to treat Jing. As a student of Four Seasons Garden, she enjoyed rather good benefits. The medical treatment was also the best. When Jing saw that Zhou was about to call the hospital, she was both angry and anxious. Her strange illness wasn't something an ordinary doctor could treat. It was useless even if she went to the hospital. Otherwise, with the family's strength, she could easily go to the best hospital in the league and see the best doctor. What Jing couldn't accept the most was that she was wearing a nightgown that barely covered half her thighs. Her hair was disheveled, and she was about to be carried out by a doctor. She couldn't accept being seen by other students. Although she knew that Zhou was doing it out of goodwill, Jing couldn't help but grit her teeth. Seeing that Zhou was about to make the call, Jing tried her best to control her body. Using her tenacious willpower, she shouted through chattering teeth, Don't call. I'm fine." Jing had used all her strength to say those words. Her face turned even paler, and her voice trembled so much that it was almost impossible to hear what she was saying. Thankfully, Zhou was wearing the truth listener earring and could hear her clearly. However, he looked suspiciously at the pained Jing and said, "You don't look fine. If you're sick, you have to be treated. You can't hide it for fear of treatment. Just relax. Leave the rest to the doctor." Chapter 72. You don't look fine. Zhou thought for a moment before coming to a realization. "Are you afraid that I'll take the opportunity to seek revenge on you? Don't worry. Although I don't think you're much, I won't harm you on account of Sis Lan and my dad. I'll just get you a doctor." With that said, Zhou continued dialing the emergency number. Jing was embarrassed and anxious. All she could do was shout again. "There's no need. There's really no need. I'm just having my period. I'll be fine after some rest. Leave quickly. Don't disturb my rest." Jing really couldn't explain it to Zhou, so she couldn't care less. She decided to send him away first. "I see. I've heard that girls suffer during those few days of the month, but I never expected it to be this painful." Zhou had lived alone since he was young. He didn't have a mother, nor had he interacted with any women. As he grew older, he began cultivating his primordial energy art. He didn't have any girlfriends, so he didn't know anything about it. Although he was somewhat suspicious, Zhou felt that Jing wouldn't joke around with her life. "I'm really sorry. I'll be leaving first," Zhou said in embarrassment before turning to leave Jing's room. When Jing saw Zhou leave the room, she heaved a sigh of relief. She felt the pain in her body lessen significantly. Women sure have it tough. Thankfully, I'm a man. I don't have to suffer such pain every month, Zhou muttered to himself as he returned to his building. However, on second thought, Zhou realized that it wasn't easy for him either. Every night, there would be someone clamoring in his ear like a ghost chanting scriptures. Furthermore, he would lose so much blood every day, especially this time. To hatch truth listener, he had lost at least 500 to 600 cc of blood. It wasn't easy either. I bought some brown sugar wolfberries the last time. I wonder if it's of any use. I'll cook some when I get back. My anemia seems to have worsened recently, Zhou thought to himself as he touched his forehead. After returning to his room, Zhou forgot about cooking the brown sugar water. He continued taking out his phone to enter the dungeon. This time, Zhou entered the ancient sovereign city dungeon. After killing the skeleton general, a skeleton general companion egg dropped. However, its stats were inferior to the first one. Zhou directly fed it to the silver-winged flying ant. As for truth listener, it didn't show any signs of hunger. Zhou didn't know if it wanted to eat. He switched to the underground Buddha city dungeon. Small Buddha temple had already been explored, so there was no point in going there again. The mutated Buddha heart lotus in the lotus pond had been slain and hadn't respawned yet. Zhou directly crossed the lotus pond and headed deeper into the underground Buddha city. In the meantime, he saw a few lotus ponds, but not every one of them had a mutated Buddha heart lotus. After a day, only an ordinary Buddha heart lotus companion egg dropped. Although its stats were rather ordinary, it was a heart-type companion beast after all. Zhou hatched it so that if his heart was damaged in the future, he could use the Buddha heart lotus's companion form to temporarily allow his heart to function normally. After staying up for so long, Zhou couldn't take it any longer. He switched off his phone and slept. He slept all the way until the next morning. When he got up, he placed the blood supplements he had bought into the pot and boiled a pot of brown sugar wolfberry blood replenishing tea. Zhou, are you up? It's matriculation day today. Come out for a stroll. Just as Zhou finished brewing the tea, Li Xian called. What's better? Zhou asked in puzzlement. Today's matriculation day. Many clubs in the school will be recruiting freshmen. Let's go take a look, Li Xian said with a chuckle. I'm not interested in joining any club, Zhou said as he poured himself a cup of blood-replenishing tea. It's fine if you don't join a club. You can take a look at those beautiful seniors. Li Xian exposed his true intentions. Not interested, Zhou still planned on continuing his exploration of underground Buddha City. Don't be so cold. There are benefits to taking a look. Most of the missions assigned by the school require multiple people to complete. The older students already have their own teams. If we want to create our own team, we have to recruit people from the freshmen. Taking a look now is also a preparation for the future. Li Xian gave a bunch of reasons. Zhou was so vexed that he had no choice but to agree to take a look with him. After drinking a huge bowl of blood-replenishing tea, Zhou filled a thermos cup before walking out of the building. And Jing happened to walk out of her building at that moment. When she saw Zhou, she couldn't help but grit her teeth. However, when she saw the thermos cup in Zhou's hand, she couldn't help but be taken aback. And Jing recognized the tea. There were fruits like wolfberries and red dates inside, and it was obvious that it was brewed with brown sugar. In the past, the servants at home had also brewed it for her. Do you think you can bribe me with a cup of brown sugar water? Men didn't drink this, and after yesterday's incident, and Jing believed that Zhou had brewed it for her in a bid to ease the tension between them. Although she had such thoughts, the look in her eyes turned a lot gentler. She found Zhou rather meticulous. When Zhou walked out of the yard, and Jing walked out as well. Zhou needed to walk past her, so he walked towards her, and Jing watched Zhou walk over, wondering if she would accept the brown sugar water if he handed it to her later. Just as she was pondering over it, Zhou had already walked in front of her. Seeing Jing looking at him, Zhou nodded slightly at her as a greeting. When Jing saw Zhou nod at her, she imagined that he was about to hand over the blood-replenishing tea. She averted her gaze slightly and waited for him to hand over the cup. To her surprise, Zhou walked past her with the cup in hand. He had no intention of walking towards her. Furthermore, he took a sip from the thermos cup as he walked. It seems a little too sweet, Zhou muttered to himself after taking a sip. And Jing's face burned as her eyes nearly spewed fire. Zhou didn't notice Jing as he walked out of Four Seasons Garden. How can a man like you not be nourished to death by drinking something like that? And Jing gritted her teeth as she watched Zhou leave. Today was the matriculation day, but Sunset College wasn't like the typical school. There was no welcoming ceremony, nor were there many decorations. Apart from having more people, it didn't look any different from usual. On the two sides of the street, facing the main entrance, were 2 rows of tables. In front of the tables were recruitment signs. They were the school's clubs recruiting members. Sunset College encouraged student clubs and hoped that there would be more cooperation between students, especially when entering dimensional zones to complete missions. Zhou, I'm here. Zhou was watching when he heard Li Xian's voice coming from a club's recruitment point. Chapter 73. Zhou, are you interested in joining our Weiyang Club? As Li Weiyang spoke, she winked at Zhou. Our Weiyang Club's members are basically all girls. There are many beautiful seniors. Before Zhou could answer, Li Xian exclaimed, Sis, that's not nice of you. How can you snatch him from me? However, it's useless even if you snatch him. Zhou and I are setting up a new club. It's impossible for Zhou to join your Weiyang Club. Li Weiyang curled her lips and said, That depends on whether Zhou is willing to set up a new club with you. Sisters, let's show our Weiyang Club's strength to our junior. The row of female students at the back were all vying for attention as they posed in all sorts of sexy, cool, or adorable poses. It was as though 100 flowers were blooming. A honey trap? Sis, that's against the rules, Li Xian protested as he drooled. This is called making reasonable use of existing resources. Li Weiyang ignored Li Xian's protest and said to Zhou with a smile, How about it? Consider joining the Weiyang Club. I won't mistreat you. Zhou shook his head slightly. I've already promised Li Xian to set up a new club with him. Li Weiyang was somewhat exasperated by Zhou's rejection. All she could do was say, All right, but I hope your new club can form an alliance with our Weiyang Club. We can complete missions together in the future. No problem. Definitely not a problem. Li Xian agreed immediately as his gaze drifted over the female students of the Weiyang Club. What are you looking at, little virgin? Li Weiyang mocked Li Xian and bade Zhou farewell before leading the students to recruit the other freshmen. Li Xian chuckled and said, Zhou, you just missed an excellent opportunity. The Weiyang Club has always only recruited female students. You nearly became the only male member among them. It's like you missed an opportunity to become an emperor. However, Zhou thought nothing of it as he swept his gaze around and said, When can we set up a club? Can we start recruiting members now? If we don't take action now, I'm afraid some of the better freshmen will be pulled away. The other clubs were recruiting new students, but Li Xian didn't seem to be prepared at all. Li Xian said helplessly, That can't be helped. Freshmen can only apply for a club a month after matriculation. Furthermore, they have to gather at least 5 students to apply. Typically, students will choose to join existing clubs. Although it's a little troublesome for us to set up a new club, we don't have to worry about the old members. Zhou nodded. This was the reason why he wasn't willing to join the club. If possible, he would rather not join any club. Playing games by himself in peace was much better than joining any club. Zhou was looking at the freshmen entering through the school's entrance when he was slightly taken aback. 2 familiar figures appeared in front of him. One was a tall girl, while the other was a boy of medium build. They were none other than Feng Ruoxi and Tian Xiangdong. I never expected the 2 of you to be admitted to Sunset College. Zhou was truly surprised. With so many universities in the league, Sunset College wasn't the best choice. Yet, Feng Ruoxi and Tian Xiangdong had chosen Sunset College. Feng Ruoxi looked at the clubs around her before asking Zhou, Zhou, have you chosen a club? Beauty, Zhou and I plan on setting up our own club. Let's join. I'll make you vice president. Li Xian struck up a masterful pose and struck up a conversation with Feng Ruoshi. Sure, Feng Ruoshi replied with a smile. He never expected Feng Ruoshi to agree so readily. Li Xian was taken aback for a moment before he said in embarrassment, "However, we are all freshmen. We have to wait a month before we have the right to apply for the establishment of a club. Beauty, if you're in a hurry, you can take a look at the other veteran clubs." Although Li Xian spoke fiercely, he was a genuine virgin. Furthermore, he was a virgin who didn't dare lose his virginity. "There's no need. I'll wait for your new club to be established," Feng Ruoshi said with certainty as she glanced at Zhou. "Zhou, you're lucky," Li Xian said with a smile as he patted Zhou on the shoulder. He could naturally tell that Feng Ruoshi was here for Zhou. "Zhou, I'm very sorry about what happened before. Please believe me, something like that won't happen again." Feng Ruoshi was naturally referring to her sudden withdrawal from the team during the college entrance examination. "It's fine. It wasn't your fault." Zhou didn't take it to heart. Zhou had always believed that Feng Ruoshi and Tian Xiangdong weren't related to him, so it was normal for them to withdraw under such circumstances. Tian Xiangdong hurriedly said with a smile, Yes. We were forced into a corner in the past. Now that we have entered Sunset College, we have a bright future ahead of us. There's no need to hold back. I guarantee that something like that won't happen again." Zhou didn't say anything else. Everything was unpredictable. No one knew what would happen in the future, so any guarantees now were meaningless. "Since you're old classmates, I'll take you to the registration area," Li Xian introduced as he walked. As Li Xian walked, he introduced, "Sunset College is a little different from other schools. There are very few formalities and rituals here. There's no welcoming party or matriculation ceremony for new students. After registering at the registration counter, they will be assigned dormitories. School starts tomorrow. By the way, I forgot to tell you that the first lesson of the first day at Sunset College is a combat test. Freshmen will be sent to a dimensional zone to hunt dimensional creatures. It's best you be mentally prepared. Where will the test be held? Buddha City?" Zhou asked in surprise. "Of course not. Buddha City is a dimensional zone that was recently discovered. It hasn't been fully controlled, so it won't let these freshmen take the risk. According to past experience, they will choose one of the 4 relatively safe dimensional zones in the school. Every freshman only needs to kill 1 creature to complete the mission. The more they kill, the better their results," Li Xian said. "What's the point?" Zhou asked. "It could be considered a test. Although those who are admitted to Sunset College are the top students of the various high schools, their abilities vary. Such a test can let the teachers understand the true strength of the freshmen. Secondly, it's to create a ranking list for the freshmen," Li Xian explained. "What's a ranking list for freshmen?" Tian Xiangdong asked curiously. Chapter 74. After registering Feng Ruoshi and Tian Xiangdong, he sent them to their dormitory before returning to his dorm. He had no interest in such activities. Just as he arrived at Four Seasons Garden, he saw a few students walking in with their luggage. Clearly, Sunset College's special admission students had arrived and were beginning to move into Four Seasons Garden. Zhou wasn't interested in them, so he naturally didn't pay attention to what they looked like. With his head lowered, he walked towards the building at the back of Four Seasons Garden. When he reached the last row, he saw a girl standing in front of another building, using her dorm card to open the door. "Hello, my name is Wang Lu. Do you live next door? We'll be neighbors from now on." The girl greeted Zhou in a friendly manner. "My name is Zhou. Zhou replied before pushing the door open and entering his building. "This fellow is so strange. As expected of a special admissions student of Sunset College. Do all the special admissions students of Sunset College have such personalities?" Wang Lu thought curiously. Zhou returned to his room and took out his phone to launch the game dungeon. This time, he entered Ant Nest. Previously, he had encountered a bottleneck in Ant Nest. After arriving in Ant City, his strength no longer allowed him to advance any further. Now that the silver-winged flying ant had evolved into a mature form, Zhou planned on giving it another try. Ant City was still the same as before. It looked mysterious and strange. The ants in and out of their nests, and many black-winged flying ants flew around Ant City. Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to stay far away from Ant City and let the silver-winged flying ant charge over alone. A mature, silver-winged flying ant stats were considered top-notch among legendaries. With a flap of its 4 wings, it flew straight towards Ant City. The black-winged flying ant immediately discovered him as it flapped its black wings and charged at the silver-winged flying ant. The black swarm looked a little terrifying. The silver-winged flying ant moved like a bolt of lightning as the venomous stinger on the back of its tail shot out a magical needle that penetrated the black-winged flying ant's head. It plummeted to the ground. The silver-winged flying ant didn't stop as it charged into the ant horde like a silver bolt of lightning. Killed black-winged soldier, ant discovered dimensional crystal. Zhou saw dimensional crystals drop from dead black-winged flying ants, but due to the distance, he had no way of picking them up. If the blood-colored avatar were to charge into Ant City, it would be besieged as well. With Zhou's present strength, it would be difficult for him to survive the black-winged flying ants. Many dimensional crystals dropped, but Zhou didn't dare pick them up. He felt somewhat depressed. The silver-winged flying ant was also struggling amidst the black-winged flying ants. Although it had killed quite a number of them, there were just too many of them. The silver-winged flying ant was surrounded by perils and could be drowned by the ant horde at any moment. Darn it, there are too many ants here. Furthermore, they are all legendary creatures. The silver-winged flying ant can't charge in at all. Zhou wanted to control the silver-winged flying ant to rush out, but it was already too late. Trapped, the silver-winged flying ant could only fight the tidal wave of black-winged flying ants as its injuries increased. Ding! Another black-winged flying ant was killed by the silver-winged flying ant, dropping a black-winged flying ant dimensional crystal. It was the black-winged flying ant's primordial energy skill crystal. Let's fight. Zhou saw that there were quite a number of dimensional crystals on the ground. He had been able to hold back, but when he saw the primordial energy skill crystal, he couldn't hold it in any longer. Without any hesitation, he controlled the blood-colored avatar to charge towards the edge of Ant City. At the same time, he summoned the mutated skeleton ant and truth listener to divert the ant horde's attention. The black-winged flying ants quickly discovered Zhou. Before he could reach the dimensional crystals, a large number of black-winged flying ants rushed over. The mutated skeleton ant attempted to lure away a portion of the black-winged flying ants, but unfortunately, it was only a mortal companion beast. It died in a blink of an eye after being surrounded by a horde of legendary black-winged flying ants. Zhou used the short period of time and gap to leap up and rush to the spot where the dimensional crystals had fallen. He stared intently at the black-winged flying ant crystal. The silver-winged flying ant was also surrounded and killed. Its bleeding corpse fell to the ground as a large number of black-winged flying ants turned around and charged at the blood-colored avatar. Let me get it! Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar and used its greatest speed and strength to grab the black-winged flying ant crystal. However, when the blood-colored avatar's finger was 2 feet away from the black-winged flying ant crystal, a large horde of black-winged flying ants had already rushed forward and drowned the blood-colored avatar. Thankfully, this is in-game. If I were to fight like this in real life, it would really be a dead end. Zhou smiled bitterly as he looked at the black screen. He had died for nothing, but Zhou was already used to it. Recently, he had died very rarely, unlike when he first obtained the mysterious phone. Dripping a drop of blood to revive, Zhou entered the game again. However, he knew that his present strength was insufficient to attack Ant City, so he entered the underground Buddha City dungeon. Zhou thought of making another trip to Small Buddha Temple to take a look at the refreshed underground Buddha City dungeon. He wanted to choose one of the 3 and obtain another mythical companion egg. However, after Zhou entered Small Buddha Temple, he was disappointed. Even though Small Buddha Temple had respawned, he failed to successfully trigger the three-faced Buddha. From the looks of it, I can only obtain one mythical companion egg in-game. I wonder if I can trigger the three-faced Buddha to bestow a companion egg if I go to small Buddha temple in real life. Although Zhou Wen was somewhat tempted, he dispelled the thought on second thought, as it was too risky. To obtain the three-faced Buddha companion egg, I seem to need to master the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. Otherwise, only death awaits me. If those soldiers don't know this secret, I'm afraid many more people will be sacrificed. Zhou Wen had the intention of telling this secret to the vanguard troops exploring underground Buddha City so as to reduce their casualties. However, firstly, he didn't have the chance to interact with those soldiers. Secondly, he couldn't explain how he knew this. Suddenly, Zhou Wen's eyes lit up as he muttered to himself, "Since I can't tell them directly, I can publish the underground Buddha City strategy on the League's Dimensional Forum. That way, I can obtain an official reward and prevent those soldiers from sacrificing their lives for nothing." The League had always encouraged citizens to write down their experiences regarding dimensional zones. For this, they had specially set up a server and an official dimensional forum. The dimensional zone strategy published there could be paid to read. It could even be bought by the officials and used as teaching content in textbooks. In order to prevent the person who published the strategy from having any worries, the Dimensional Forum used a completely independent server and security system. Unless the Senate voted to approve it, no one could view the Dimensional Forum's backend data. In this regard, the League had a very clear legal guarantee. It was to allow experts who didn't wish to expose themselves to publish strategy articles on the forum with peace of mind. Chapter 75. Zhou Wen wasn't in a rush to post on the Dimensional Forum. Instead, he first read the other threads on the forum. The threads on the Dimensional Forum were roughly divided into three types according to the different charging methods. The first type was free strategy threads. Such threads didn't need to be paid to read. According to the number of clicks, the official platform would pay a certain percentage of dimensional points. Of course, if the number of clicks was very low, it wouldn't earn much dimensional points. About 10,000 clicks would earn 1 dimensional point. Dimensional points were the exclusive points of the Dimensional Forum. They couldn't be spent as money, nor could they be withdrawn. However, they could be exchanged for items in the Dimensional Forum's official store. Dimensional crystals and companion eggs could be exchanged. Different items required different points. The items exchanged only needed a specific mailing address and a password. There was no need for any proof of identity. The second type of thread was paid threads. Such threads required a fee to read. The fee was determined by the poster, and it was also paid using dimensional points. Of course, when a person without any fame posted such a paid thread on the Dimensional Forum, basically no one was willing to pay to read it. One had to have a certain level of fame before anyone would buy it. The third type of thread was official threads. They were guides and tutorials provided by the official platform. Typically, they could be read at a very low price. Furthermore, the authenticity of the content was guaranteed. Zhou Wen registered an account on the Dimensional Forum. All he needed to do was fill in his account number, password, and nickname. There were no other restrictions. The account password was relatively easy, but when it came to the nickname, he realized that there were many repetitive nicknames. He randomly came up with a few names, but none of them passed. Zhou Wen couldn't be bothered to think too much about it, as he subconsciously typed a few keys. Then he tapped the spacebar, and immediately, a few words appeared in the nickname column. Zhou Wen didn't even know what he had typed. On careful look, he realized that it was the word poison. He subconsciously tapped the confirm button and realized that the nickname could be used. Furthermore, the registration was successful. Zhou Wen didn't care what the nickname was. He used the account to log into the Dimensional Forum and posted his first thread. When posting, Zhou Wen chose to make a paid thread. Firstly, he didn't have much money and wanted to earn some to buy companion eggs to feed the silver-winged flying ants. Secondly, there were too many posts on the Dimensional Forum. Ordinary posts were easily drowned in the sea of posts. In comparison, there were fewer paid posts, and they could stay on the paid page for a longer time. After looking at the prices of legendary companion eggs on the forum store, Zhou priced his first post at 20,000 dimensional points. This was the price of 2 legendary companion eggs. Soon, a paid post titled Small Buddha Temple Stone Steps Walkthrough appeared in the paid section. Normal paywall posts range from a few points to a dozen points, and the more common ones range from a few dozen points to 100 points. Paywall posts with thousands of points like this were professional guides written by forum bigwigs. However, basically no one had heard of the small Buddha temple mentioned in the thread. Furthermore, the username of the thread was very unfamiliar. This is a mental patient. Only a ghost would read a post worth 20,000 dimensional points. This is another fisherman. Let's see if anyone has given him a dimensional point. The rules and regulations of the forum should be more complete. For this kind of phishing post, legal responsibility should be pursued. Wang Fei was also browsing the dimensional forum when she suddenly saw the thread. She couldn't help but be surprised. This was because Small Buddha Temple was in Sunset College's underground Buddha City. This was a secret that even the typical Sunset College teachers didn't know about. However, Wang Fei had an official background, so she knew very well what kind of place Small Buddha Temple was. Since the person who wrote the thread knew about Small Buddha Temple and had written the keyword stone steps, he was likely someone in the know. Could it be some random writing? Wang Fei felt a little hesitant when she saw the price of 20,000 points. However, if this thread really had a way to enter Small Buddha Temple, 20,000 points was nothing. So many lives have been sacrificed on the stone steps. Any one of their lives wasn't something that could be compared to 20,000 dimensional points. Gritting her teeth, Wang Fei paid to open the thread. When she saw the content, she wore a look of disbelief. Is it possible for a mortal primordial energy skill, heart meditation, to crack the strangeness of the stone steps? The soldiers in charge of exploring the stone steps were at least at the legendary stage. Even if they had obtained the Buddha Heart Lotus Dimensional Crystal, no one would be interested in such a low-level primordial energy skill. No one expected the mere heart meditation to be able to resist the mysterious power on the stone steps. The thread's content was very short. It only mentioned that one thing. At the end, there was a reminder to never enter the temple hall or death would be certain. Zhou had indeed posted the thread out of good intentions, but he also had a little selfishness. He only had one life, so he was still somewhat worried that he would take the risk of entering Small Buddha Temple in real life. He was afraid that reality and the game would be different, so he could get the military to scout ahead. If he could really enter Small Buddha Temple safely, it wouldn't be too late for him to head there. After all, the military didn't know the secret of the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. Even if they knew the secret, cultivating the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Zhou could totally enter the temple hall in real life before that happened to take a look at the three-faced Buddha. Of course, he had to confirm that Small Buddha Temple in real life was the same as in-game. Only when he could safely enter and exit would he personally take a look. After Wang Fei finished reading the thread, she immediately made a call and informed the military department she belonged to. It didn't take long for Wang Fei to receive feedback from the military. They had already gotten a soldier who cultivated in heart of meditation to attempt to ascend the stone steps. In the end, he really entered Small Buddha Temple and didn't die like the soldier from before. The thread is actually real. Who is that poison? How does he know about Small Buddha Temple? Wang Fei was alarmed and puzzled. Zhou realized that his thread had 2 more clicks, which meant that 2 people had bought his thread. He immediately received 40,000 dimensional points. This money sure is easy to earn. Zhou was delighted. However, he soon realized that apart from the 2 clicks, no one else bought his thread. If I had known this would happen, I would have set the price higher. Zhou stopped paying attention to the thread and entered the ancient Sovereign City dungeon. After killing the skeleton general again, Zhou continued exploring. With the silver-winged flying ant leading the way, large swaths of skeleton soldiers couldn't do a thing to him. He stormed his way along the main path. After charging for several kilometers, the path ahead of him was suddenly blocked by a tall platform. From afar, Zhou saw the words Consort Platform engraved on the platform. This name wasn't unfamiliar to Zhou. Consort platform was the son of one of the 5 emperors, Emperor Ku. He was also the ancestor of the Shan clan and had the title of Fire God. Therefore, Consort platform was also known as Fire God platform. It was where Consort platform observed the stars at night. However, Zhou remembered that the Fire God platform wasn't in the ancient city in the history books. It was likely southwest of the ancient city. Chapter 76. The Firebird was too fast. The silver-winged flying ant used silver wing flash to dodge the Firebird's charge, but the blood-colored avatar didn't have that kind of speed. It was too late to summon the silver-winged flying ant to transform into wings. Since he couldn't dodge, Zhou didn't bother dodging. He struck out with Ashen Palm at the Firebird. However, when his palm made contact with the Firebird's body, it was as though he had struck air. There was no resistance at all, and the Firebird had already charged into the blood-colored avatar's body. Bam! In the next second, the blood-colored avatar's body exploded like fireworks before the screen went black. Zhou was indignant as he dripped his blood to revive again. He made the blood-colored avatar charge towards the Fire God platform and soon arrived in front of it. This time, Zhou was prepared. He made the silver-winged flying ant transform into a companion form as 4 translucent silver wings appeared behind the blood-colored avatar. Indeed, another Firebird flew out from the top of the Fire God platform. Zhou used the flight ability that the silver wings gave him to circle around the Firebird. Although he couldn't shake it off, the Firebird couldn't catch up to him. Ignoring the Firebird, Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to fly towards the Fire God platform, hoping to see what was on it. The Fire God platform was squarish like a gigantic chimney. It was 1,000 feet tall, and although Zhou wished to fly straight up, his silver wings could only allow him to fly more than 10 meters high. He didn't have the ability to soar into the sky. The life providence of the king of low altitudes allows the silver-winged flying ant to be extremely agile at low altitudes, but can't fly too high. This is a fatal weakness. Zhou landed on the stone steps of the Fire God platform and saw the Firebird chasing after him. He summoned the silver-winged flying ant and shot a magical needle at the Firebird. The Firebird didn't dodge as it charged at the magical needle. Bam! The magical needle was somewhat effective, blasting the Firebird apart. However, the system didn't notify him that he had killed a dimensional creature. Zhou was delighted. Just as he was about to rush towards the top of the Fire God platform, he saw flames soar into the sky from the top. This time, 2 Firebirds rushed out. Zhou continued charging up the stairs. Before long, the 2 Firebirds rushed down. The blood-colored avatar fused with the silver wings and circled the 2 Firebirds again. After much effort, he finally killed the 2 Firebirds, but another 4 Firebirds flew down from the top. Zhou didn't dare kill them again. He tried his best to escape the Firebird's pursuit and quickly rushed towards the Fire God platform. Unfortunately, Zhou was wrong. Even if he didn't kill the Firebirds, another 8 would fly down from the top of the Fire God platform after he reached a certain height. Zhou tried his best to control the blood-colored avatar, but he wasn't a match for so many Firebirds. Soon, the Firebirds rushed into the blood-colored avatar's body and it exploded. However, from where the blood-colored avatar was, he could already see the scenery at the top of the Fire God platform. At the top of the Fire God platform, there was likely a monument. Zhou could only see the top of the monument and vaguely saw the word Emperor. The game screen went black. Zhou didn't immediately enter the game again. Instead, he thought about what he had just experienced. After killing the Firebirds, there wasn't a notification of killing a dimensional creature. It means that they aren't a dimensional creature. If they aren't, it could be a primordial energy skill. But why didn't the dimensional creature at the top of the Fire God platform release a large number of Firebirds at the beginning? Instead, it doubled the number? Zhou thought again. The ancient city in real life is clearly Guide Ancient City, but the game dungeon is called Ancient Imperial City. Could the stone monument with the word Emperor on the Fire God platform be related to the word Emperor in Ancient Imperial City? Unable to figure it out, Zhou decided to take a break to calm his thoughts. After pouring himself a cup of blood-replenishing tea, Zhou drank it while checking the 2D forums to see if there were any new earnings from his posts. However, Zhou was disappointed. There were still only 2 clicks, but there was a forum email. Zhou saw that the file was sent by a user with the nickname Kingsman. He clicked on it. Honorable Sir, can I discuss matters regarding Small Buddha Temple with you? Talk about what? Zhou sent a message back. Wang Fei kept the forum open on her phone. Although she didn't receive a reply after a long time, she continued waiting patiently. The discovery of Small Buddha Temple was just too shocking. After using the mental patience method, the military finally rushed into Small Buddha Temple and discovered the stone monument with the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra engraved on it. This discovery alarmed Wang Fei and the military brass. Such a stone monument had been discovered in other mysterious dimensional zones. Furthermore, someone had mastered the primordial energy art on the stone monument and obtained a mysterious companion beast. However, Wang Fei and the military brass knew very well that although such a primordial energy art was powerful, not everyone could cultivate it. One needed a corresponding special physique to be able to cultivate the corresponding primordial energy art. Although they saw the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, no one dared to cultivate it. A volunteer attempted to memorize the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra on the stone monument, but after reading a few words, he clutched his head and died with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. A general personally went to see the stone monument before getting all the soldiers to retreat from Small Buddha Temple. He also sealed off all news regarding Small Buddha Temple. Wang Fei had contacted the mental patient because of the general's request. Have you cultivated the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Wang Fei hurriedly asked. What has it got to do with you? Zhou asked. I'm willing to pay a huge price to buy information from you. Sensing that the other party's tone was a little impatient, Wang Fei didn't dare waste her breath and directly explained her intentions. What information is it? Tell me, Zhou replied. Do you know what kind of special physique is needed to cultivate the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Wang Fei hurriedly sent a message. Zhou was slightly taken aback. He didn't know what physique was needed to cultivate the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. However, on second thought, he immediately came to a realization. I previously found it odd that the 3-faced Buddha addressed me as Arhat. In the beginning, I thought it was because I cultivated the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, but from the looks of it, it's not that simple. However, I don't seem to have a special physique. If the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra really needs a special physique to cultivate, why can I cultivate it? With this in mind, Zhou eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be because of the Lost Immortal Sutra? He remembered that when he first read the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, he felt his head ache. It was only after the Lost Immortal Sutra took effect that he was able to finish reading the entire Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra and successfully cultivate it. From the looks of it, it's most likely a problem with the Lost Immortal Sutra, Zhou muttered to himself. Chapter 77. Wang Fei waited for a long time without receiving a reply. It was like a rock sinking into the sea. Finally, she couldn't help but send another message, but there was still no response. Unbeknownst to her, Zhou had already closed the forum and was gaming on his phone. Zhou didn't know what physique was needed to cultivate the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, so he naturally couldn't answer. However, he didn't wish for her to know that he knew nothing, so he didn't answer. He might have a chance to obtain more information from her in the future. However, this made things difficult for Wang Fei. As the dimensional forum didn't show that he was online, there was no way to check it. Therefore, she had no idea if Zhou was online or not. All she could do was wait. Wang Fei's phone suddenly rang. When she saw the number, she hurriedly picked it up. Little Fei, have you found out Poison's identity? A man's voice sounded from the phone. I'm sorry, General Shun. The other party hasn't replied. There's no way to find out his identity for now. Wang Fei paused before saying, General Shun, can we start with the forum and find out where he logged in? The Dimensional Forum is managed by the Zhang family. You should know how the Zhang family does things. Unless the council votes, it's impossible to obtain information from them. Even my old face isn't useful in front of the Zhang family. General Shin pondered for a moment before continuing. Since Poison knows about Buddha City and Small Buddha Temple, as well as the secret of the stone steps, he must have been there. Buddha Land is a recently discovered dimensional zone. Not many people have been there. Apart from our military, there are only students and teachers from Sunset College. Start your investigation from this aspect. No matter what, you have to find Poison. Yes. Wang Fei hung up the phone and thought about where to start. There were quite a number of students and teachers who had entered Buddha City, so it wasn't easy to find out who had gone to Small Buddha Temple. In the morning, Zhou Wen and Li Xian reported for duty. Sunset College had a semi-enclosed military-style education system. Unlike ordinary universities, there was no distinction between elective and compulsory classes. They only had to attend one teacher's lessons. They could choose to listen to other teachers' lessons according to their interests. Li Xian and Zhou Wen happened to be in Wang Fei's class. Wang Fei wasn't in a good mood today. After entering the classroom, she pursed her lips and curled up when she saw the freshmen in the class looking languid. Students, from today onwards, I will be your tutor. Let me introduce myself. My name is Wang Fei. Wang means Wang, and Fei means imperial concubine. As Wang Fei spoke, she wrote her name on the screen. The group of students saw that Wang Fei looked to be in her 20s. She was wearing a gray business suit with stockings on her beautiful legs. The sexiness of a mature woman was not something that the female students could compare to. Some of the more daring boys cheered. Li Xian was clearly the boldest one among them. He jeered, "Teacher, whose consort are you? If you don't have one, you can consider me." Upon hearing Li Xian's words, many students laughed out loud. Many boys also joined in the commotion. Wang Fei seemed accustomed to such scenes, so she didn't mind. She glanced at Li Xian and said, "Of course, but you have to successfully graduate from me first. All right, this is Sunset College." The word sunset is a warning to us that time is precious. Our school's motto is to cherish time. Now, I will assign you your first task, which is also your first test. Slay a demonized general in 10 days. You can only form a team of 4, and the time limit is 1 minute and 30 seconds. If you fail to complete the test, you will be eliminated from the school. You can find your own way out, and the school can arrange for you to reapply for ordinary schools. The noisy classroom suddenly quieted down. Those who could get into Sunset College weren't to be trifled with. Many students had already learned about Sunset College from various channels before coming to the school. Having a test on the first day of school was a tradition of Sunset College. There was nothing much to say about it. However, to use slaying a demonized general as a test topic, and for 4 people to complete it in 1 minute and 30 seconds, the requirement was too high. Sunset College had many dimensional zones. The typical entrance test required one to kill a certain number of mortal stage dimensional creatures, but demonized generals were legendary stage dimensional creatures. Although the students who could come here were elites, most of them were at the mortal stage. It wasn't easy for 4 people at the mortal stage to slay a legendary creature. Furthermore, demonized generals typically didn't appear alone. There would be groups of mortal demonized soldiers around them, making it even more difficult. 4 people in 1 minute and 30 seconds was probably something most students couldn't do. "Teacher, we just started school and haven't learned anything. Isn't it a little too difficult for us to slay a demonized general?" A student raised his doubts. "Didn't I give you 10 days to study? As long as you are willing to put in the effort, 10 days is enough. If you aren't willing to put in the effort, it's useless even if I give you 100 days. This is Sunset College, and we don't have that much time for you to waste. Kill a demonized general in 10 days or go to another university. Your fate is in your own hands." All right, that's all for today's preamble. You can officially begin class. As for what classes you want to attend, you can decide for yourselves. The curriculum has been arranged by each counselor. You can choose the subjects you want to study. Wang Fei left after handing out the passes, leaving behind a room of stunned students. University life seems to be a little more interesting than I imagined. The four of us killed a demonized general in a minute and 30 seconds. I'm afraid even we can't do it easily, much less ordinary students, Li Xian whispered to Zhou. The other students were also lamenting and complaining. Their test questions were considered the most difficult type in the past years of the entrance examinations. What kind of dimensional creature is a demonized general? Zhou sized up the pass he had just received and saw the words Tiger Cage Pass. Li Xian said, Tiger Cage Pass is a dimensional zone east of the college. In ancient times, it was known as Sisui Pass. It was a famous ancient battlefield. After it became a dimensional zone, a large number of demonized soldiers and demonized generals appeared. Among dimensional creatures of the same level, demonized soldiers and demonized generals are considered above average. Some demonized generals can even reach the level of a pinnacle legendary. They're extremely difficult to deal with. The entrance test this time is just too difficult for the students who have just matriculated. Let's head to Tiger Cage Pass to take a look, Zhou said with interest. Chapter 78. In the school's office, Lu Jingyan looked at Wang Fei and said, Teacher Wang, it's not good for you to use the special admissions test from the past 2 years on ordinary students, right? These little guys are all arrogant. If I don't let them suffer a little, I'm afraid it won't be easy to teach them in the future. Teacher Lu, don't worry. I know what I'm doing, Wang Fei said confidently. Wang Fei naturally didn't really want to force the students to quit school. She had already prepared a strategy to kill the demonized general. As long as the students were willing to research the demonized general's information, they would be able to discover the strategy she had specially written. By studying the strategy thoroughly, it wouldn't be difficult to kill a demonized general in 10 days. Typical students would head to school to research information, but Zhou was clearly an exception. He didn't do so and instead headed straight for the Tiger Cage Pass dimensional zone with Li Xian. Tiger Cage Pass was also underground. Zhou and Li Xian took out the temporary pass issued by the school to enter Tiger Cage Pass. The pass was only temporary. It would be taken back in 10 days. When that happened, it wouldn't be easy to enter Tiger Cage Pass again. It wasn't that the school wasn't willing to open Tiger Cage Pass, but that it had too few resources. After all, reality wasn't a game. The dimensional creatures wouldn't respawn after they were killed. They had to wait for new dimensional creatures to enter through dimensional rifts. This process was much slower than respawning in games. Therefore, dimensional zones like Tiger Cage Pass, which were specially prepared for students, were typically opened regularly to ensure that there were enough dimensional creatures inside. However, Zhou discovered a familiar palm symbol outside Tiger Cage Pass. However, this time, the palm was holding a symbol of a tiger-headed gate. Before entering, Zhou had used his mysterious phone to snap a picture of the palm symbol. Indeed, he had successfully downloaded the Tiger Cage Pass dungeon. Since he was here, he followed Li Xian into Tiger Cage Pass to take a look. There were quite a number of students from his class who had also come to take a look at the situation at Tiger Cage Pass. On the underground ancient battlefield, groups of demonized soldiers were wandering around. The demonized soldiers wore tattered uniforms, and their eyes were blood red. Their skin was dark and emitted a luster that resembled iron. There were also several types of demonized soldiers. Most of them held spears, while some held sabers and shields. A small number of demonized soldiers would appear with bows and arrows. Most of these students were geniuses from various high schools, so it was not difficult for them to deal with ordinary demonized soldiers. However, there were no traces of demonized generals nearby. Why don't we walk in and find a demonized general? We can complete the test today, Li Xian said with a smile. Maybe another day. I should go back and study the information on Tiger Cage Pass first. Zhou didn't wish to belittle any dimensional zone. It was equivalent to throwing his life on the line. Although he now had the ability to kill legendary creatures, the abilities of legendary creatures varied greatly. No one could guarantee that they would be safe. You are just too cautious. With our abilities, we can just storm our way in, Li Xian said with a smile. Zhou ignored him and turned to leave Tiger Cage Pass. After returning to his dorm, he first went to the school's official website and checked the information on Tiger Cage Pass. Wang Fei had specially pinned the strategy guide, so Zhou naturally saw it at a glance. He clicked on it and saw a detailed introduction to the strategy. As long as one cooperated well, it wasn't difficult to kill a legendary demonized general. However, there was a special note in the strategy guide. The demonized generals mentioned in the strategy guide were only ordinary demonized generals. If one were to encounter a demonized general with the words engraved on the helmet, one had to immediately stay away. After studying the information, Zhou launched the game dungeon and entered Tiger Cage Pass. The game scene was almost identical to the Real Tiger Cage Pass. However, it was cartoonish and didn't look as bloody and terrifying. With Zhou strength, killing ordinary demonized soldiers was very easy. Groups of demonized soldiers posed no threat to him at all. He stormed his way through and headed for Tiger Cage Pass's entrance. The silver-winged flying ant slew the ordinary demonized soldiers like chopping vegetables. After charging a few kilometers, he suddenly saw a demonized general galloping over on a demonized horse. The demonized horse was crimson in color like a fiery cloud. It was astonishingly fast and appeared in front of the silver-winged flying ant in a blink of an eye. The demonized general on the horse was abnormally majestic. It was dressed in black armor and a black helmet. The long weapon in its hand was extremely strange. It looked like a spear, but there were two crescent-shaped blades on either side of the spear tip. It was more than 3 meters long and looked a little like Poseidon's trident in legends. The raven-black spear suffused a faint red glow. Although it was cartoonish, one could still sense its ferocious and domineering nature. When Zhou swept his gaze across its helmet, he saw a circular groove on its forehead. Engraved inside was the word cloth. Boom! The demonized general raised its spear and stabbed at the silver-winged flying ant. Flames burst out from the spear tip, making the strange spear look like a flaming WYRM. It rapidly swept towards the silver-winged flying ant, clearly a primordial energy skill. Under Zhou control, the silver-winged flying ant used silver-wing flash to dodge the demonized general's stab. At the same time, its stinger flashed, shooting out a magical needle that was aimed straight at the demonized general's eyes. Roar! The demonized general let out a roar as its body bloomed with flames that resembled lotus petals. It managed to block the magical needle, and at the same time, the strange spear in its hand swept towards the silver-winged flying ant with terrifying flames. Zhou hurriedly made the silver-winged flying ant fly higher, hoping to use the high altitude to prevent the demonized general from hitting it. The silver-winged flying ant charged more than 10 meters into the sky. Zhou originally believed that the demonized general's strange spear wouldn't be able to reach it at such a height. However, to his surprise, the demonized horse beneath the demonized general leaped up and charged more than 10 meters into the sky. Instantly, it closed the distance between it and the silver-winged flying ant. The strange spear in the demonized general's hand swept towards the silver-winged flying ant like a flaming WYRM. The silver-winged flying ant lived up to being the king of low altitudes. With a flap of its 4 wings, it dodged the strange spear's attack like a silver bolt of lightning. But in the next second, something that alarmed Zhou happened. He saw the demonized general suck at the silver-winged flying ant with one hand, as though space itself was collapsing towards its palm. The silver-winged flying ant, which was at least 2 meters away from it, was forcefully sucked towards the demonized general. No matter how it flapped its 4 wings, it was unable to escape the suction force. Kacha! As the strange spear cleaved down, the motionless silver-winged flying ant's head was immediately lopped off. Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to turn around and retreat. With the blood-colored avatar's strength alone, it was very difficult for it to fend off such a top legendary creature. However, Zhou's retreat was too late. The demonized general didn't give chase. Instead, it sat on the demonized horse and threw the strange spear at the blood-colored avatar. Chapter 79. How ferocious! Not only did Zhou not feel depressed, but his eyes lit up in excitement. The silver-winged flying ant stats were considered top-notch among legendaries, but had been brutally killed by a demonized general. Such a powerful existence made Zhou have the urge to obtain it. Be it the demonized general companion beast or its primordial energy skill, they were extremely valuable, especially the primordial energy skill that could suck the silver-winged flying ant over. It was practically a godly skill. Without any hesitation, he dripped his blood to be reborn. After reviving the blood-colored avatar, he chose to enter the Tiger Cage Pass dungeon. The typical demonized soldiers didn't mean much to Zhou. He charged forward like he was chopping vegetables, and soon he encountered a demonized general on horseback. However, this demonized general was somewhat different from the demonized general Zhou had seen before. Although this demonized general was also wearing black armor and a black helmet, there were no engravings on the helmet. Furthermore, it was riding a black horse and was slightly shorter. The weapon it held was an ordinary spear. After exchanging blows, Zhou realized that this was likely the ordinary demonized general mentioned in the school strategy guide. It was different from the word-engraved demonized generals Zhou had previously seen. Although the ordinary demonized general was rather strong, it was no match for the silver-winged flying ant. After fighting for about 10 minutes, it was slain and dropped a primordial energy crystal. A 15-valued primordial energy crystal couldn't help Zhou break through his shackles. Apart from his constitution being 11, his other stats were capped at 10. He couldn't exceed this limit. Zhou continued controlling the blood-colored avatar to charge towards Tiger Cage Pass. The closer he got to Tiger Cage Pass, the more demonized soldiers there were. He encountered 2 demonized generals, but they didn't drop anything useful. Tiger Cage Pass's city gate was already in sight. Zhou wanted to continue charging forward, but he suddenly heard the twang of a bowstring. Then, an arrow flew over from the top of Tiger Cage Pass's city gate like lightning, killing the blood-colored avatar amidst the chaos. What the hell is that? Due to the truth listener earring, Zhou heard the bowstring's twang, but he didn't see who shot the arrow. He didn't have the time to control the blood-colored avatar to dodge. Such an outcome clearly didn't satisfy Zhou. He dripped his blood to revive and re-enter the game. However, he didn't enter Tiger Cage Pass this time. Instead, he went to Ant Nest, Ancient Sovereign City, and Underground Buddha City to grind the silver-winged flying ant, skeleton general, and mutated Buddha Heart Lotus before heading to Tiger Cage Pass. However, he still didn't see a word-engraved demonized general this time. All he encountered were 2 ordinary demonized generals. After killing the 2 ordinary demonized generals, Zhou was shot to death by an arrow from the direction of the city gate when he attempted to approach Tiger Cage Pass. This time, Zhou still didn't see who had shot the blood-colored avatar. He didn't immediately enter the game. Instead, he entered the school's online database and studied the information on Tiger Cage Pass in detail. There was quite a lot of information on Tiger Cage Pass, but there wasn't much regarding word-engraved demonized generals. It was only mentioned that word-engraved demonized generals were occasionally seen outside Tiger Cage Pass. They were extremely rare, with one appearing every 1 or 2 months. Furthermore, many bigwigs were eyeing word-engraved demonized generals. It was said that the word-engraved demonized generals' primordial energy skills were very valuable, but Zhou didn't even find any information on them. As for Tiger Cage Pass, several epic experts had once charged in and escaped with heavy injuries. To this day, humans had yet to crack open Tiger Cage Pass's dimensional zone. The 2.5-kilometer area outside Tiger Cage Pass was classified as a forbidden zone. Typical students and teachers weren't allowed to enter, or they would be responsible for any accidents. Without finding detailed information on word-engraved demonized generals, Zhou could only attempt it himself. He dripped his blood to revive again and again, hoping to encounter the word-engraved demonized generals that spawned outside Tiger Cage Pass. However, before heading to Tiger Cage Pass, Zhou would first grind the silver-winged flying ant, skeleton general, and mutated Buddha Heart Lotus. Some legendary companion eggs dropped, as well as some ordinary companion eggs. Zhou fed them to the silver-winged flying ant and Truth Listener as food. Truth Listener also needed to eat, but it was a picky eater. It only ate companion eggs and had no interest in hatched companion beasts. This was different from the silver-winged flying ant Ding. For the next few days, Zhou crazily grinded. When he slayed the mutated Buddha Heart Lotus again, a mutated Buddha Heart Lotus crystal dropped, which was a primordial energy skill crystal. It was even rarer than the mutated Buddha Heart Lotus companion egg. Zhou had 3 companion eggs drop, but only 1 mutated Buddha Heart Lotus primordial energy skill crystal dropped. I already have blood meditation. I hope it won't be blood meditation this time. Zhou carefully read the primordial energy skill crystal's information. Mutated Buddha Heart Lotus Crystal, Lotus Flower Buddha Body, rank 9. Zhou's eyes lit up as he didn't hesitate to let the blood-colored avatar fuse with the primordial energy skill crystal. Lotus Flower Buddha Body was the mutated Buddha Heart Lotus's blood pattern Buddha Glow Protective Primordial Energy Skill. Furthermore, it was supreme grade at rank 9. Zhou couldn't ask for more. Thankfully, Buddha-type primordial energy skills were relatively mild. Although it was at the legendary stage, it didn't place too much of a burden on Zhou's body. It allowed him to successfully obtain rank 9 Lotus Flower Buddha Body. Zhou attempted to circulate the Lotus Flower Buddha Body primordial energy skill. Immediately, faint blood patterns appeared on his skin like flower petals covering his body. There was a faint Buddha aspect hidden within. Lotus Flower Buddha Body expended 1 primordial energy skill point every second. Zhou's 10 primordial energy skill points could only last for 10 seconds, and this was under the condition that he didn't use any other primordial energy skills. This primordial energy skill is good in every aspect, but it drains my primordial energy too quickly, Zhou thought greedily. After entering the game, he attempted the effects of the Lotus Flower Buddha Body. Under the attacks of demonized soldiers at the mortal stage, Zhou was invulnerable with the Lotus Flower Buddha Body. His defense was indeed pretty good. When ordinary demonized generals didn't use primordial energy skills, the Lotus Flower Buddha Body could withstand their attacks. If they used primordial energy skills, the Lotus Flower Buddha Body wouldn't be able to withstand them, but it could prevent him from being instantly killed. Of course, this was under the condition that ordinary demonized generals could attack the blood-colored avatar. In fact, with the silver wings of the silver-winged flying ant, ordinary demonized generals' attacks couldn't touch the blood-colored avatar at all. On the other hand, the arrow that shot out from Tiger Cage Pass was still able to accurately penetrate Zhou's body. The Lotus Flower Buddha Body's protection was like paper, without any obvious effects. Even with Silver Wing Flash, he couldn't dodge it. The one that shot this arrow from Tiger Cage Pass is probably an epic dimensional creature. Zhou didn't dare approach Tiger Cage Pass, so all he could do was search for demonized generals in the periphery. After grinding Tiger Cage Pass countless times, Zhou saw a red horse galloping over not long after he arrived outside Tiger Cage Pass. On its back was a tall and majestic demonized general. A strange spear that resembled Poseidon's halberd was extremely eye-catching. There were even words engraved on its helmet. It was none other than the word engraved demonized general that Zhou had been searching for. Chapter 80. The demonized General Zhou, when it seen the last time, had the word paper engraved on its helmet. But this time, the demonized general didn't have the word paper engraved on its helmet, but blade. Previously, it was paper, and now it's blade. Don't tell me there's a rock or something. Although he didn't know why it was different, Zhou immediately followed the plan he had come up with. He fused the mutated skeleton ant, silver-winged flying ant, and Truth Listener with the blood-colored avatar and prepared to fight with all his might. Although the demonized general was strong, the silver-winged flying ant wasn't weak either, especially in terms of speed. It was definitely not inferior to any legendary stage dimensional creature. The demonized general's attack was no different from the previous one. The strange spear in its hand swept over with biting flames, but Zhou dodged it with the blood-colored avatar. Although he had dodged the strange spear's attack, Zhou wasn't excited at all. He continued staring intently at the demonized general's left hand. Indeed, after the spear missed, the demonized general raised its left hand just as Zhou had expected. However, to Zhou surprise, the demonized general didn't use its palm to suck away the blood-colored avatar. Instead, it used its palm as a saber and slashed at the blood-colored avatar that was flying in midair. A pale red saber beam tore out of the palm like a thin thread, instantly slashing at the blood-colored avatar's waist. It was so fast that even the silver-winged avatar couldn't dodge it. The saber beam flashed past the blood-colored avatar's waist, instantly splitting it into two. It fell from the sky as the screen turned black. Looking at the black screen, Zhou wore an odd expression. The skill of the left hand of the cloth is suction, and the saber is a saber beam that's as fast as lightning. If there's also a rock, could it be a powerful remote divine punch? Zhou didn't immediately revive the blood-colored avatar to enter the game. Instead, he carefully pondered the battle for a while. Soon, he realized that it would be difficult for the silver-winged flying ant to defeat the paper demonized general, but he had a chance of defeating the blade demonized general. The paper demonized general's palm had a suction force that the silver-winged flying ant couldn't dodge. However, the blade demonized general's extremely fast saber beam could be dodged by the silver-winged flying ant's silver-winged flash. This also meant that Zhou had a chance of killing the blade demonized general. This was when the silver-winged flying ant was fighting alone. If a silver-winged flying ant appeared on the blood-colored avatar in its companion form, it wouldn't stand a chance. That was because the silver-winged flying ant in its companion form couldn't use its talent skills. Furthermore, Zhou hadn't dropped a silver wing flash primordial energy skill, so he couldn't cast a flying primordial energy skill. Therefore, after fusing, he lost the advantage. The heavens have eyes. Let me encounter the blade demonized general again. Zhou entered the dungeon again, but luck clearly wasn't on his side. After grinding a few more times, he didn't encounter any word engraved demonized generals outside Tiger Cage Pass. Zhou hid in his dorm for the next few days to grind dungeons. He didn't attend class at all. Li Xian looked for him a few times, hoping to invite him to Tiger Cage Pass to complete the test, but Zhou found an excuse to reject him. Wang Fei had been secretly observing her students. She discovered that most of the students were diligently researching information and forming teams to attempt to kill demonized generals at Tiger Cage Pass. In the entire class, only Li Xian and Zhou didn't move. Apart from their first visit to Tiger Cage Pass, they hadn't been seen again. I can ignore Li Xian, but what's Zhou doing? Why isn't he heading to Tiger Cage Pass to complete the mission? Wang Fei was rather curious about Zhou. She had a good relationship with Ouyang Lan and knew how proud and pampered she was. Even a woman like Ouyang Lan had an extremely high evaluation of Zhou. Furthermore, she had given Jing's qualifications to Zhou. This made Wang Fei extremely curious about Zhou. The last time Zhou participated in the battle to slay the mutated Buddha Heart Lotus, he had indeed shown considerable potential. This made Wang Fei even more curious about him. It would have been fine if Zhou had obediently headed to Tiger Cage Pass to complete the mission, but Zhou's lack of activity for days only made Wang Fei even more curious. Wang Fei clearly wasn't a patient person. Since she was curious, she decided to head to Zhou's dorm to take a look and see what he was hiding there for. And in a room somewhere in Luoyang City, Liz excitedly came to Qiao Xiyuan with an arrest warrant in hand. Minister Qiao, the arrest warrant has been approved. Do you want to take action immediately? Qiao Xiyuan nodded slightly. Bring people to Sunset College, but don't produce the arrest warrant first. In the name of assisting in the investigation, get the school to bring Zhou here. If he's willing to cooperate, bring him back. If he's unwilling to cooperate, it won't be too late to produce the arrest warrant then. When doing this, make sure not to alarm too many people, especially the family. Minister, don't worry. I know what to do. I'll definitely bring Zhou back, Liz said confidently. Go. Come back quickly. We don't have much time. We have to find out everything we want to know before the infamily appears. So, we have to be fast, Qiao Siyuan exhorted again. Liz obeyed the order and led her men to Sunset College. Then, in the name of assisting in the investigation, she met the school's managing vice-chancellor. If she were an ordinary police officer, she probably wouldn't even have a chance to meet the managing vice-chancellor. Liz only met the vice-chancellor because of the Special Investigations Department's name. In the League, the Special Investigations Department could be said to be a hated department. Although the vice-chancellor didn't wish to interact with Liz and company, he had no choice but to deal with them. It was unknown how many high-ranking officials in the League had their reputations tarnished after entering the Special Investigations Department. If they were targeted by the department, they would be skinned alive, even if they didn't die. Chancellor, don't worry. We only wish to get these witnesses to provide us with some information. It won't take up too much of the students' time, Liz said with a smile. There was already a name list on the managing vice-chancellor's desk. There were a total of 6 names on the list, all of them students of Sunset College. However, the other 5 students' names were a smokescreen. Zhou was the person she really wanted. All right then. The managing vice-chancellor didn't wish to offend the Special Investigations Department over such a trivial matter, so he got his secretary to gather the students on the list. Zhou was gaming in his dorm when he received the notice to head to the school's administrative building. He had no idea why the vice-chancellor was looking for him. Chapter 81. This female officer needs to ask you some questions. Just answer truthfully, the vice-chancellor said to Zhou and company. Liz didn't seem to have any intention of targeting Zhou. She asked the 6 students questions one by one and treated him the same. It was as though she didn't know him. After Liz was done with her questions, the vice-chancellor said, Sir, is that all? The rest of you can go back first. I wish to invite Zhou back to assist in our investigations. Liz waved her hand to get the other students to leave the office. She scrutinized Zhou and spoke in a seemingly casual manner. The vice-chancellor frowned slightly, but he instantly restored his smile. Sir, it's naturally possible if you want our students to assist in your investigations. However, as you know, our Sunset College is considered half a military school. These students can be considered reserve soldiers. If you wish to take them away, you will need to go through some procedures to get them to leave with you. If you're in a rush, I'll help you with the procedures now. There's no need. This is an arrest warrant. Take a look. We will be taking him away now. We only want him to assist in our investigations. We will soon send him back unharmed, so you don't have to worry too much. Liz sneered as she took out the arrest warrant and placed it on the table in front of the vice-chancellor. How could she not know what the wily vice-chancellor was planning? Although he spoke nicely, it was likely that he would inform the infamily of the matter the moment he left. Sunset College was run by the infamily, so even if they didn't like Zhou, they definitely wouldn't sit idly by if something happened here. When the vice-chancellor saw the arrest warrant, his expression changed slightly. He stared at Liz and asked, What law did our student break? Is there a need for you to use an arrest warrant of this level? He could already tell that Liz was here for Zhou. She had only said those words to get Zhou here. No comment, Liz said as she gestured for the inspector beside her to detain Zhou. She knew that there was no time to lose. She had to take Zhou away before the infamily arrived. Zhou was the infamily's only candidate, the kind that couldn't be changed. It was self-evident how important he was to the infamily. If they directly went to the infamily to get him, it was impossible for them to let him go with them without concrete evidence. As for interrogating Zhou under the infamily's supervision, it was almost useless. It was clearly telling Zhou that they couldn't touch him. So how could they get anything out of him? Furthermore, Qiao Siyuan suspected that the infamily might be involved in this matter. This was also one of the reasons why he had to take Zhou back for interrogation. Killing Zhou was something Qiao Siyuan wouldn't do, much less Liz. The infamily only had Zhou. Killing him was equivalent to forming a feud with the infamily. Xiao Siyuan didn't wish to offend the family to the extreme. At the very least, he wouldn't do so without concrete evidence. Of course, it would be a different story if he could obtain concrete evidence that the family was involved with Jing Daoxian from Zhouwen. The possibility was very low, so Liz didn't really wish to obtain such evidence. All she wanted was to bring Zhouwen back before the family arrived and interrogate him about the information Xiao Siyuan wanted. When Zhouwen saw this, he immediately hid behind the vice-chancellor. He had heard from Li Xian about the Special Investigation Bureau style of doing things. Anyone who entered would be skinned. Since the other party had spent so much effort to come to Sunset College to capture him, it was clearly impossible for them to let him go after a few questions. Furthermore, Zhouwen felt guilty. After all, he had cultivated Jing Daoxian's Lost Immortal Sutra. If the Special Investigation Bureau recognized that the primordial energy art was related to Jing Daoxian, wouldn't that make him Jing Daoxian's accomplice? Zhouwen didn't know that Jing Daoxian didn't cultivate the Lost Immortal Sutra. The Lost Immortal Sutra wasn't his to begin with. Even if someone recognized the Lost Immortal Sutra, it was impossible to connect him to Jing Daoxian. Furthermore, no one in the League had ever cultivated the Lost Immortal Sutra. Almost no one could recognize it. Sir, you should know that Overseer is very concerned about Sunset College. Shouldn't you inform him first? The Vice-Chancellor said with a frown. Liz said in all seriousness, the League's laws are above everything else. I don't care where this place is or who is here. As long as it's my duty, I have to do what needs to be done. It doesn't matter who comes. Or do you think Overseer is above the League's laws? Taking things out of context, our Sunset College will definitely demand an explanation from the Senate. The Vice-Chancellor's face was livid. Go ahead. Liz knew that she couldn't delay any further. She had to leave with Zhouwen immediately, so she signaled the inspectors with her eyes. The two inspectors flanked him like phantoms as they tried to subdue Zhouwen and take him away. Don't touch me. I can leave by myself. Seeing that the Vice-Chancellor didn't stop the two inspectors, Zhouwen knew that it was impossible to rely on the school to suppress them. All right, let's go. Liz wasn't afraid that Zhouwen would stir up trouble. She waved her hand, gesturing for the inspectors not to take action and let Zhouwen leave by himself. She didn't wish to cause too much of a commotion if it wasn't too conspicuous. Zhouwen didn't resist and obediently walked out. The two inspectors followed behind him, ready to immediately subdue him if he did anything out of the ordinary. Chancellor Yin will be taking our leave, Liz said before leaving with her men. Zhouwen didn't dawdle as he headed straight for the school's entrance. Zhouwen's EQ wasn't high, but it didn't mean he was stupid. Liz had tricked him into coming in the beginning and was in such a hurry to take him away. Although her words and actions were domineering, he could vaguely tell that they had qualms in taking him away as though they were afraid of something. All I can do now is stall for a little more time. Zhouwen didn't have a chance to send a request for help. Ever since he entered and saw Liz, he knew that it was impossible for Liz to get him to send a request for help under her nose. Therefore, Zhouwen didn't make any attempts to prevent himself from being detained. Perhaps even a mysterious phone would be taken away. However, it was likely that the Vice-Chancellor had already spread the news. As long as he could stall for some time, there would likely be a turn for the better. It was clearly impossible for someone at the mortal stage to escape from a few legendary inspectors. At least, it was impossible under normal circumstances. Zhouwen kept walking towards the school's entrance without any abnormal actions or taking any detours. It made Liz and the inspectors believe that Zhouwen had given up resisting and was returning with them. In fact, even if he was a high-ranking League official, he wouldn't be able to pull any tricks under their control, much less a student. Zhouwen walked very normally, as though he had resigned himself to his fate. However, when he arrived at a tiny forest in the school, he suddenly exerted his strength and charged into the forest. As he ran, he said, "I need to pee. I'll relieve myself first." After passing through the forest, the entrance to underground Buddha City was not far away. As long as he could escape into underground Buddha City, he could use small Buddha temple's mysterious powers to stall for time. Although it was risky because Zhou still didn't know if small Buddha temple in reality was the same as in-game, he had no other choice. He had something he absolutely couldn't expose. Chapter 82. Upon seeing Zhou when attempting to escape, Liz looked at him with a teasing expression, having no intention of taking action. The Bureau's daily job was to capture and pursue people. If they allowed a mortal stage student to escape from under their noses, they wouldn't be able to survive. Without needing Liz to say a word, the two inspectors behind Zhou immediately grabbed him. Their legendary speed burst forth as their four hands locked onto Zhou's arms like phantoms. But at that instant, a silver light flashed behind Zhou as four silver wings spread out. With a flap, he flew 7 to 8 meters high. His speed was unbelievably fast as he dodged the two inspectors' attacks and charged into the woods. A legendary flying companion beast. Chase. Liz was slightly taken aback. After snapping to her senses, she immediately led the chase. She originally believed that Zhou wouldn't be able to escape their encirclement, even if he had a legendary companion beast. However, to her surprise, Zhou was like a specter bat. He flapped his four wings and darted through the woods, using the trees as cover to dodge their encirclement and charge out of the woods. Let's see where you can escape to. Liz was alarmed and infuriated as she chased after Zhou at an astonishing speed. Without the woods as cover, Zhou had no way of pulling away. All he could do was charge at full speed to the nearby ancient path and enter underground Buddha City before Liz and company caught up. Zhou showed his pass and entered underground Buddha City. However, Liz and company were stopped by the soldiers guarding underground Buddha City who didn't know what was going on. After showing their identification from the Bureau, they were allowed to continue their pursuit. Zhou didn't even turn his head as he charged towards small Buddha temple with all his might. Behind him, Liz and company pursued relentlessly. Despite the speed of the silver-winged flying ant's wings, they were unable to shake them off. Instead, they were closing in on him. Zhou, do you know what the crime is for resisting arrest? Originally, you only needed to return with us to assist in the investigation. If you were to escape, you would be charged with a grave crime. It's not too late to stop now, Liz shouted as she chased. Zhou ignored her as he charged forward with all his might. Liz knew that she couldn't afford to waste any more time when she saw Zhou continue running with all his might. Gritting her teeth, she summoned a blue sword and slashed at Zhou's back. Immediately, a green sword beam streaked across several meters and slashed at Zhou's back. When Zhou heard the wind, he hurriedly dodged to the side and barely dodged the sword beam's slash. Without a word, he continued running forward. He originally wanted to find an opportunity to hide the mysterious phone, but Liz and company were too hot on his trail. He didn't have a chance to hide the mysterious phone, so all he could do was desperately run in the direction of small Buddha temple. If I let you escape today, I, Liz, will take your surname. Liz was infuriated. At that moment, she couldn't care less as she slashed out one sword beam after another. Although the sword beams weren't aimed at Zhou's vital spots, he would probably be severely injured if he was hit. In order to dodge the sword beams, Zhou's speed immediately slowed down. Soon, the other inspectors caught up to him. They didn't stand on ceremony as they used all sorts of primordial energy skills to attack Zhou. They were all experienced veterans. Although their attacks looked ruthless, they didn't take Zhou's life. All they wanted was to cripple him and bring him back. A stream of blood ballooned from Zhou's thigh as Liz's sword beam streaked across it. Blood immediately gushed out from the wound. Zhou charged forward without a word as the wounds on his body increased. Although they weren't fatal, the bloodstains on his body made him look extremely horrifying. Liz was alarmed as well. Although Zhou had the augmentation of a legendary companion beast and his flying speed, he was only at the mortal stage. Despite being besieged by the few of them, he was able to remain undefeated despite his heavy injuries. However, he had avoided his vital spots and hadn't suffered any serious injuries. Although Liz and company didn't really want to kill Zhou had also avoided many injuries that could incapacitate him. Most of the time, Zhou couldn't even see them, but he was able to dodge the attacks at the last moment. It was as though he had eyes in the back of his head. This left Liz astonished. This Zhou is actually so calm in battle. Even if he's injured, he'll choose to injure himself to minimize the damage. His mind is terrifyingly calm. It's unbelievable that he's only 16 years old. Liz looked at Zhou, who was covered in blood but still had a resolute look in his eyes as he fled. It's no wonder the family chose him. It's probably not just because of Zhou Lingfeng and Ouyang Lan's relationship. Zhou retreated as he fought. After his body was injured, the lost immortal sutra in his body automatically switched to the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. What surprised Zhou was that the wounds on his body were likely Xuani's. The tissues around the wounds were tightly compressed together, preventing the blood from flowing out. I never expected the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra to have such magical effects. Zhou wasn't too surprised. The small perfection of Wisdom Sutra had allowed Zhou's constitution to break past 10. It was the only stat that had reached 11 points. It had a powerful augmentation effect on his constitution, but he didn't know to what extent. Soon, the stone steps of small Buddha temple were in sight. There was a steel fence installed there with a forbidden zone sign on it to prevent students from accidentally entering. There were no troops guarding small Buddha temple because there was no need. If someone could really enter small Buddha temple to learn the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra, it would be something the military wished for. In fact, there were similar mysterious places all over the world, but less than 10% of them could be cracked. Zhou rushed to the fence and tore a huge hole in the steel fence with a bone gauntlet on his left arm before burrowing in. Liz and company weren't from Luoyang, so they didn't know much about the newly discovered Buddha city. Although they saw the Forbidden Zone sign, they still rushed in. Firstly, Liz had to capture Zhou and bring him back as soon as possible. Secondly, Zhou was walking ahead, so he would be the first to suffer any danger. Therefore, Liz didn't hesitate to lead her men in. The stone crevice in front of him was narrow, so the space Zhou could dodge decreased. Liz slashed at Zhou's back with a sword beam. Zhou activated his lotus flower Buddha body, but a long bloody gash was left on his back. His body flew forward and slammed into the stone steps high above as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhou, you have nowhere to run. Don't be stubborn. Follow me back to help with the case. It's beneficial for you, Liz said coldly as she approached Zhou with her sword raised. Chapter 83. Lunatic. Liz ignored what Zhou said and waved her hand to signal for the inspector beside her to grab the heavily injured Zhou. She had already wasted too much time and was much later than she had planned. It was already difficult to say if she could take Zhou away before the family arrived, so she couldn't waste any more time. The inspectors swarmed forward. As they walked up, the exposed stone steps widened. It wasn't as narrow as before, allowing them to swarm up. However, this time, Zhou didn't immediately escape. Sitting on the stone steps, he extended his palm and slowly struck at the inspector who was leading the charge. Zhou's palm looked weak, as though it didn't contain any strength. Furthermore, when he struck out, he was nearly 2 meters away from the inspector. He didn't even touch the corner of the inspector's clothes. Liz and the inspectors naturally didn't believe that Zhou had the ability to strike someone across space. Skills that could release primordial energy were rare even among legendaries. It was impossible for someone at the mortal stage to master such a technique. Even if he had such a primordial energy skill, his primordial energy at the mortal stage wasn't enough to sustain the expenditure of such a skill. However, with Zhou's strike, the inspector silently collapsed to the ground, giving everyone a fright. Zhou's expression didn't change as he struck out a few more times in the air. The remaining inspectors immediately fell to the ground as if their souls had been scattered. Liz was alarmed and appalled. She almost couldn't believe her eyes. The legendary inspectors were clearly dead, but she couldn't tell how Zhou had killed them. Her eyes shimmered as she was alarmed and puzzled. She didn't dare approach Zhou for a moment. However, Zhou knew very well that they hadn't been killed by him. Instead, their lives had been taken by the stone steps and small Buddha temple's mysterious power. However, no one knew the mysterious power better than Zhou. He had only calculated the time of the inspector's deaths and acted as though he had attacked. It was all a bluff. What left Zhou depressed was that Liz didn't seem to be affected by the stone steps' power. Otherwise, she would have died on the stone steps. Strange, could it be that Liz has a primordial energy skill similar to heart meditation? That's why he wasn't killed by that mysterious power? But that's not right. Even if she really has a primordial energy skill similar to heart meditation, she shouldn't have used it ahead of time if she doesn't know the secret here. What's going on? Zhou was puzzled, but he didn't show it on his face. He continued sitting leisurely on the stone steps and looked down at Liz. I didn't want to kill anyone, so why must you force me? Zhou's words were half-truths. If Liz hadn't forced him into a corner, he definitely wouldn't have wanted someone dead, much less the people from the Bureau. It was hard to say if Zhou would be able to explain his death in the future. He might even be wanted by the Federation. Even so, Zhou didn't wish to expose the secret of the mysterious phone. At most, I'll be like those fugitives and escape into dimensional zones that aren't under human control. As long as I have the mysterious phone, the danger of dimensional zones doesn't exist for me. Zhou made up his mind. If he really had nowhere else to go, he would have no choice but to be forced into a corner. Cut the act. Do you think you can fool me like that? Liz didn't believe that a mortal stage student like Zhou would possess such terrifying strength. However, she couldn't tell how the 4 inspectors had died. She was somewhat hesitant and didn't dare charge forward. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Let's see if my formless divine palm can kill you, Zhou said with a deadpan expression as though he had a card up his sleeve. However, Zhou grumbled inwardly. I've already dragged it out for so long. Logically speaking, without the protection of heart meditation, no matter how strong Liz is, she should have died on the stone steps. Why is she completely fine? What formless divine palm? I've never heard of it. Liz's eyes kept sizing up Zhou and the 4 dead inspectors, hoping to find a flaw and figure out how the 4 legendary inspectors had died. Formless divine palm is colorless and shadowless. It can kill without a trace. This is a primordial energy skill that Ouyang Lan gave me to protect my life. I usually don't dare use it easily, and if I hadn't been forced into a corner by you today, I wouldn't have used such an extremely sinister primordial energy skill. Although Zhou spoke nonsense, he was thinking of a way to escape. Zhou didn't believe that he could really scare Liz. The reason why she didn't dare charge forward was because she hadn't figured out how her 4 colleagues had died. She didn't dare take the risk. Liz was skeptical of Zhou's words. Indeed, she couldn't tell how the 4 inspectors had died. They didn't seem to be injured at all. Suddenly, an idea flashed through Liz's mind as she recalled the Forbidden Zone sign she had seen. Immediately, she came to a realization as she sized up her surroundings and sneered. Then let me try. Let's see how your formless divine palm can kill me. As she spoke, Liz summoned a companion beast. It had a pair of pure white wings, tender skin, and a white chiffon dress. It looked like an angel from myths and legends, but there was one thing that was different from the angels in myths and legends. This angel-like companion beast didn't have a head, and there was nothing above its neck. Headless angel, Zhou immediately exclaimed when he saw the companion beast that resembled a headless angel. Headless Angel was just too famous. Although Headless Angel was a companion beast from the West District of the League, its name had already spread throughout the League. Headless Angel wasn't a real angel, but a figure from Western legends. Legend had it that there was a devout nun who believed in God with an extremely holy heart. She looked forward to the day she could ascend to heaven and become an angel that served God. Everyone who saw the nun felt that she was the most holy and flawless person in the world. Everyone who knew her believed that she would ascend to heaven after her death and become an angel that served God. Perhaps the nun's piety had touched God. One day, God really descended in front of the nun and cast divine light, turning the nun's mortal body into an angel. Just as the nun's body was transforming into an angel's body, she saw a prisoner who was being executed praying and repenting to God. Hence, the nun asked God, "That prisoner is so pious. Can you pardon his sins?" God replied, "I can pardon the prisoner's sins, but this sin has to be borne by someone. If the nun is willing, she can take the prisoner's place on the guillotine and bear his sins." After the nun heard that, she resolutely chose to bear the prisoner's sins. Hence, with a flash of divine light, the prisoner on the guillotine was replaced by the nun who was about to transform into an angel. Before the nun could transform into an angel's body, her head was chopped off. Although her head had been chopped off, the nun's other parts of her body had already transformed into an angel's body. She had an undying body, so she didn't die from having her head chopped off. However, the head didn't have the time to transform into an angel, so it couldn't be restored. Therefore, the nun became the decapitated angel in Western mythology. Although the name was terrifying, decapitated angel was synonymous with holiness in the West District. After the dimensional storms descended, a decapitated angel mutated creature appeared in a dimensional zone in the West District. It was later killed by humans and obtained a companion egg. The epic decapitated angel became famous in the Earth Federation. Her greatest strength wasn't her combat strength, but her powerful guardian powers. With the decapitated angel's protection, all sorts of curses, blood curses, and other evil powers were unable to harm her master. It was currently the most powerful guardian companion beast known in the West. The owner of the decapitated angel relied on the decapitated angel's protective powers to explore many mysterious and dangerous dimensional zones the humans viewed as forbidden zones. Every time, she would be able to survive and return safely. Chapter 84. The headless angel wasn't an offensive companion beast. Its body was like a blob of holy light as it floated in front of Liz. Liz extended her hand and beckoned as the headless angel's body rapidly transformed, condensing into a white cross that landed in her palm. The cross emitted a holy glow, making Liz, who was holding it, look like a goddess enveloped in holy light. Now, Joan finally knew why Liz hadn't been killed by small Buddha temple's mysterious power. It was very likely that the headless angel's power had protected her. Without any hesitation, Joan turned around and flapped his wings as he charged into small Buddha temple. The wings transformed from the silver-winged flying ant gave Zhou a speed that was in no way inferior to a top legendary. Instantly, he arrived at the end of the stone steps that led to small Buddha temple's entrance. Zhou originally didn't wish to take the risk of entering small Buddha temple in real life, but he couldn't care less now. All he could do was enter to seek refuge. "If you continue running, I'll cut off your legs," Liz said coldly. With the headless angel cross in hand, she chased after Zhou like a cheetah. The sword in her other hand slashed at Zhou's thigh like a waterfall. Previously, Liz had held back because she was afraid of the infamily. However, the deaths of the 4 inspectors had infuriated Liz. Now, all she wanted to do was bring Zhou back alive. She had no qualms about anything else. The strike was extremely fast, as the sword beam instantly appeared behind Zhou. Zhou gritted his teeth and summoned the silver-winged flying ant, making it guard his back while he charged into small Buddha temple. At the same moment Zhou charged into small Buddha temple, he heard a cracking sound behind him. Turning his head, he saw that the silver-winged flying ant's 2 front claws had been sliced off by Liz. Even its forehead had a bloody gash that was seeping blood. Reality wasn't a game. The silver-winged flying ant couldn't be revived if it died here. With a thought, Zhou summoned the silver-winged flying ant back as he continued running towards the temple hall. Without the augmentation of the silver-winged flying ant's wings, Zhou's speed was much slower. The environment inside small Buddha temple was identical to the game. The moment Zhou entered, he saw the stone monument with the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra engraved on it. In reality, the stone monument looked even more ancient and unadorned, as though it had undergone the baptism of thousands of years. The stone monument's mottled exterior made it appear even more ancient. It also seemed to have an indescribable charm. Zhou wasn't in the mood to look at the stone monument as he circulated the perfection of Sutra. Liz chased closely as she slashed at Zhou's thigh with the sword in her hand. The sword beam flashed as it slashed down without any hesitation, as though it wanted to slice off both of his legs. Even if he didn't turn his head, he knew that the sword beam had of Angel of the Light. By Zhou! Without any hesitation, Zhou leaped up and pounced towards the temple hall. In midair, Zhou felt the soles of his feet turn cold. Half of his high-tech sneakers had been sliced off. Even the flesh on the soles of his feet had been sliced off. Half of the soles of his feet were covered in blood. It was a terrifying sight. However, Zhou finally rushed into the temple hall and fell to the stone ground inside. Buddha, please bless me. The powers in the temple hall must be effective against that woman. Otherwise, that crazy woman might really chop off my legs. As Zhou retreated into the temple hall, he prayed silently. Under the protection of the headless angel cross, the powers of small Buddha temple seemed to lose their original mystery. It was completely useless against Liz. Liz held the cross in one hand and the sword in the other as she charged into the temple hall. However, the moment she stepped into the temple, the eyes of the three-faced Buddha statue in the temple suddenly widened. Bam! The radiance of the Holy Cross suddenly exploded. Like a red-hot piece of iron being smashed by a giant hammer, the radiance of the cross splashed out like molten iron. In an instant, it became dim and even damaged. As for Liz, she was sent flying as though she had suffered a heavy blow. She slammed into the stone monument and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. After falling to the ground, Liz struggled a few times but failed to get up. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. He wished he could give the three-faced Buddha statue a thumbs up and say from the bottom of his heart, "Impressive." Without any time to think, Zhou summoned the injured silver-winged flying ant. Its claws had been severed and its head was severely injured. Thankfully, it wasn't dead yet. Zhou ordered the silver-winged flying ant to forcefully condense a magical needle and shoot it at Liz. With things having developed to this point, Zhou still had a buffer of time if he left everyone behind. He might have a chance to escape Luoyang and escape into the unknown dimensional zones. However, if he allowed Liz to escape and gather more people to stage a comeback, he probably wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Liz was severely injured and unable to move, but she summoned a companion beast that resembled a tiger lion. The companion beast picked up Liz and dodged the silver-winged flying ant's magical needle. Then, it turned around and ran out of the temple. Zhou hurriedly chased after it, but the silver-winged flying ant was too heavily injured to continue maintaining its companion form. Zhou couldn't catch up to it no matter how hard he tried. By the time Zhou rushed down the stone steps, the legendary companion beast had already run far away with Liz. Seeing that he couldn't catch up, Zhou didn't stop. As he continued chasing, he took out his phone and gave Li Xian a call, explaining the situation to him. He didn't wish for Li Xian to help him resist the bureau, but he hoped to get some advice from him. Zhou was still a student, so his horizons were limited. Furthermore, he didn't know much about the bureau, so he didn't know what was the most appropriate choice to make. Liz was infuriated as she endured her injuries and rode her companion beast out of underground Buddha City, heading for the school's entrance. Zhou had refused to be apprehended and killed an inspector. This was already a heinous crime. Liz felt that she could gather the power of the bureau and openly apprehend Zhou without having to worry about the infamily. Immediately contact the minister, Liz rushed out of the school's entrance. She originally wanted to order the inspector stationed outside the school to contact Xiao Siyuan, but halfway through her sentence, she froze. She saw the usually arrogant inspectors standing by the side of the road in silence. Their heads were lowered, and they didn't even dare say a word. Beside them was a row of soldiers with guns aimed at them, and in front of them was a black sedan. Through the rolled-down window, she could see a handsome man sitting in the back seat. At that moment, the man was looking at Liz. Entienzwa. Liz couldn't help but tremble when she saw the man. She had previously said in the vice-chancellor's office that it was useless even if Entienzwa came. She would still do her job, but when she really saw Entienzwa, it was completely different. This ridiculously young man's authority in the League was enough to make her uncles look at him. Although she was about the same age as Entienzwa, her achievements were on a completely different level. Chapter 85. Who gave you the guts to harm a student of Sunset College? Entienzwa asked Liz as he sat in the car. Overseer, I'm Liz from the Special Investigation Bureau. I'm under the orders of the Senate to arrest anyone related to Jing Daoxian. Before Liz could finish her sentence, she suddenly heard a bang. Liz felt an intense pain and burning sensation from her left thigh. As she screamed, one of her legs involuntarily knelt to the ground. A bloody hole had appeared on the side of her thigh, and there were burn marks on the wound. And beside the sedan, a man in a military uniform and white gloves was stuffing a pistol into the holster at his waist. At the same time, he said, "Answer whatever the overseer asks. Don't say anything he doesn't ask. You dare shoot at me? You." Before Liz could finish her sentence, she heard another gunshot. Her other leg had been pierced by a bullet as she immediately fell to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. As the overseer's adjutant, I have the obligation to remind you once again that you only need to answer the overseer's questions. If you say anything wrong or say any unnecessary nonsense, it won't be just your legs that will be broken next time, the white-gloved man said gently with a smile. If he hadn't used his gun to break Liz's legs, perhaps anyone would have thought of him as a gentleman who couldn't even bear to kill a mosquito. However, Liz's forehead was covered in a cold sweat. It wasn't only because of the excruciating pain from her legs, but also because of the chill that came from her bones. Seeing the white-gloved man raise his gun again and aim it at her head, Liz snapped out her daze. Ignoring the pain in her legs, she shouted, "Minister Chiao, Siyuan asked me to come." At that moment, she had completely forgotten the identity she was proud of. She had also forgotten her family's standing in the League. She only felt that if she didn't immediately answer the man's question, the seemingly harmless man would immediately shoot her in the head. Liz had no doubt that the bullets in the gun possessed such might. Typical bullets could hardly injure her, but that didn't include bullets made of essence gold. There were very few substances on Earth that could injure dimensional creatures. Primordial gold was one of them, and the family controlled the largest primordial gold mine in the Federation. The primordial gold reserves accounted for more than 70% of the entire Earth Federation. It wasn't that there weren't any tycoons who could extravagantly use primordial gold to make bullets, but the family was probably the only one who dared to distribute submachine guns and primordial gold bullets to their troops. Call Chiao Siyuan, and Tianzua said casually, but his words were filled with an unquestionable tone. The white-gloved adjutant handed a cell phone to Liz. Liz didn't dare hesitate as she immediately dialed Chiao Siyuan's number. Chiao Siyuan felt a little uneasy. He had a nagging feeling that something was about to happen. Just as he was frowning in thought, he suddenly heard his phone ring. It was an unknown number. Chiao Siyuan seemed to think of something and pressed the answer button. Then, he said, "I'm Chiao Siyuan. Who are you? I'll give you 5 minutes. If I don't see you by then, these people who dare offend Sunset College will be executed on the spot." A magnetic man's voice sounded from the phone. "Hello, hello." Chiao Siyuan broke out into a cold sweat. He opened his mouth to say something, but there was a beeping sound from the phone. Clearly, the other party had hung up. "That Liz, what is she doing? I clearly told her to be quick and bring Zhouwen back before the family arrives. Why is even Tianzui here?" Chiao Siyuan felt a headache coming on, but he didn't dare hesitate. He didn't even put on the coat he had placed on the back of his chair before rushing out of the office and heading for Sunset College. He had long heard of Tianzua's style of doing things, but he never expected him to be so domineering. He even dared to execute the daughter of a senator in the Senate. The League Parliament was split into the House of Lords and the House of Commons. The members of the House of Commons were representatives from various parts of the League and were elected by the citizens. However, the House of Lords was different. There had always been 6 seats in the House of Lords. These 6 seats could only be obtained by people from 6 families. They were the families of the League's 6 heroes. The House of Lords had the right to veto the proposals of the House of Commons. It could be said that the entire League government was in fact controlled by these 6 families. The Federation president of each realm was also chosen from one of these 6 families. And the Special Inspection Bureau that Xiao Siyuan was in fact a department directly under the House of Lords. It was also due to the insistence of the House of Lords that a department like the Special Inspection Bureau, which was hated by all, could continue existing in the League. Liz wasn't considered a smart woman, and the way she did things left Xiao Siyuan uneasy. However, because she was the daughter of a senator, Xiao Siyuan had no choice but to keep her by his side. If Liz were to be executed on the spot by Tianzua, Xiao Siyuan didn't dare imagine what the outcome would be. He didn't know if Tianzua would die, but he knew that he would definitely be killed. There was no way he would be spared. Outside Sunset College, the nearby roads had been sealed off by soldiers. The students and passers-by didn't know what was happening and could only take a detour. "How long has it been?" And Tianzua asked casually as he looked at the sky outside. 4 minutes and 43 seconds, the adjutant replied respectfully after looking at his watch. And Tianzua didn't say a word as he waved his hand. Immediately, a row of soldiers raised their guns and aimed the black muzzles at Liz and the few inspectors' heads from behind. Liz's body was trembling. She had never been so afraid before. She could tell that Tianzua really didn't mind killing her. Liz wished to say that she was a senator's daughter and reveal her identity, but she was afraid that the moment she opened her mouth, the seemingly harmless adjutant who always wore a smile would blow her head off. After looking at his watch for a while, the adjutant turned his head and said respectfully to Tianzua, "Overseer, it's time. Then carry out the execution." And Tianzua said indifferently, "Overseer, wait a moment." Suddenly, they heard a voice coming from the sky. They saw a figure flapping his wings and rushing down from the sky. The person landed on the ground. It was none other than Xiao Siyuan, whose clothes were drenched in sweat. He had rushed over at full speed and nearly had a heart attack from his anxiety. Thankfully, he had arrived in time. Upon seeing Liz's broken legs, Xiao Siyuan's heart was filled with bitterness. "You are Xiao Siyuan?" Although Tianzua was sitting in a car and his line of sight was much lower than Xiao Siyuan's, the way he looked at Xiao Siyuan gave him a condescending feeling. Chapter 86. There's nothing that can't be said. If you have anything to say, just say it. And Tianzua said indifferently without looking at Xiao Siyuan. Xiao Siyuan's heart skipped a beat. He knew that there was probably no way to resolve this matter peacefully. Overseer, Liz, and the rest were only acting on orders from the higher-ups. This matter has nothing to do with them. Can we let them go to the hospital first? Xiao Siyuan took a deep breath and said, "Which higher-ups?" And Tianzua continued asking with an unperturbed expression. Xiao Siyuan said, "Overseer, you should have heard of Jing Daoxian, right? The Federation's biggest devil." And Tianzua said. Xiao Siyuan continued, "Back then, Jing Daoxian conspired to slaughter a large number of the Federation's upper echelons in the Federation building, causing our Federation to lose more than half of its high-level combat strength. Our overall strength has regressed by at least 10 years. The Senate has always placed great importance on Jing Daoxian's matter. All these years, the Federation has been using all sorts of means to pursue Jing Daoxian. Our Special Inspection Department has also been putting in great effort for this. Just a few days ago, we discovered that Jing Daoxian and Zhou Wen had made contact." "Oh, you mean that Zhou Wen is Jing Daoxian's accomplice?" And Tianzua glanced at Xiao Siyuan. Xiao Siyuan shook his head and said, "We can't be sure if he's an accomplice, so we wish to invite Zhou went back to assist in the investigation. Overseer, you are a noble with a noble background, but the responsibility you bear is not something ordinary people can imagine. It's not easy for you to be an overseer, and it's not easy for you to settle down. Why do you have to involve yourself with a huge problem like Jing Daoxian? Besides, overseer, you have once criticized Zhou. You should know that there's something wrong with this person, right? In that case, should I thank you? And Tianzhua said, I wouldn't dare. If overseer can understand our difficulties, I'll be extremely grateful. The ominous feeling in Xiao Siyuan's heart intensified as he forced a smile. And Tianzhua looked at Xiao Siyuan with a faint smile and said, I did criticize Zhou Wan, and I really find him an eyesore. I want to criticize and bully him because I like him, but did I say that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can bully him? Xiao Siyuan's expression immediately turned ugly as he forced a smile and said, Overseer, you're right. We'll definitely make amends in the future. If there are any operations that involve the family, we'll definitely consult you first. Not a bad attitude. All right then. And Tianzhua, am not an unreasonable person. Since you put it that way, I'll spare their lives. And Tianzhua said, Overseer Xia, I'm very grateful. If you need my help in the future, feel free to instruct me. Xiao Siyuan hurriedly said. However, the death penalty can be avoided, but punishment is unavoidable. Otherwise, if any Tom, Dick, or Harry would dare to act recklessly in Luoyang in the future, what would become of the Federation's laws then? And Tianzhua changed the topic and added, Xiao Siyuan had long known that Tianzhua would not let the matter rest so easily. He thought to himself, you, and Tianzhua, are the one who tramples on the Federation's laws the most. You can take them back, but just cripple their cultivation so that they don't come out and cause trouble again in the future. And Tianzhua said casually, No way. You can't cripple my cultivation. Liz was alarmed when she heard that as she screamed crazily. Xiao Siyuan's expression changed drastically as well. He gritted his teeth and said, They were only acting on orders. They didn't do anything wrong. Overseer, if you were to punish them like this, what would happen to the Senate? You should also know the present Federation situation. The President and the various senators have been sparing no effort in dealing with Jing Daoxian's matter. If you are involved in this matter, wouldn't you be giving those who are eyeing you and the family's Essence Gold Mine a huge opportunity? Liz's father is Senator Cape. If you can give Liz a chance, Senator Cape and the entire Cape family will definitely be grateful to you. In the future, they will definitely speak up for the family in the Senate. A thought from heaven is a thought from hell. Overseer, please reconsider. And Tianzhua looked at Xiao Siyuan contemptuously and said, Xiao Siyuan, do you know why I'm called Tianzhua? I'm ignorant. Overseer, please enlighten me, Xiao Siyuan said. Heaven is to the right, and I'm to the left, and Tianzhua said indifferently. Liz let out a painful scream as the adjutant stabbed an exquisite knife into her primordial energy sea. Blood dyed the hand that held the knife red, dyeing the white glove red. Remember, Leong, surname, and Tianzhua looked straight ahead as the car window slowly rose, gradually concealing his face. Zhou, when hurriedly slipped out of Sunset College through the back door. Li Xian had given him 2 suggestions. One was to go to the family and get them to help him settle this matter. The second suggestion was to immediately hide in unknown dimensional zones and never appear again. Zhou had no intention of having anything to do with the family, so he planned on escaping to a dimensional zone. With the mysterious phone on him, the unknown dimensional zones weren't that dangerous to him. Zhou planned on escaping to the nearest dimensional zone, Dragon Gate Grotto. There were many dimensional zones there that humans had yet to fully explore. However, just as Zhou walked out of Sunset College's back door, he saw a young officer wearing a military uniform and white gloves. He looked refined and fair. Young Master One, Madam has asked the overseer to take you home for dinner. When the young officer smiled, he revealed 2 rows of white and neat teeth. It was as warm and comfortable as the spring sun. Zhou sat in the car, and beside him, was in Tianzhua, whom he had only heard of in the past, but had never met. The two of them had never met before, nor did they have any relationship in the past. But now, they had some sort of relationship. The atmosphere seemed a little subtle. "You must hate me, right?" And Tianzhua suddenly said. Zhou never expected in Tianzhua to suddenly say such a thing. However, he wasn't a person with high emotional intelligence, so he directly said, "I don't really hate you, but I definitely don't have a good impression of you." "Very good. That's what I wanted to say to you. I never believed that you had the right to replace little Jing. It was the same in the past, the same now, and the same in the future," and Tianzhua said expressionlessly as he looked straight ahead. "You mean quiet? What did I replace her in?" Zhou asked with a frown, and Tianzhua didn't answer as he said indifferently, "I really don't understand why my mother thinks you are better than little Jing. A man who only knows how to escape from reality doesn't even have the right to be called a man, much less be better than little Jing. I think you should see a doctor to check if there's something wrong with your brain." Zhou felt that Tianzhua was definitely mentally ill. It was truly baffling. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.